Who changed my class to become a female heavy gunner? Am I surnamed Stark? Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 1, The Streamer's Life Has Been Worthwhile. Click clack, click clack clack, the sound of a blue switch keyboard filled the cramped master bedroom. A figure at a computer desk in one corner was intently controlling a character on the monitor, completely oblivious to the eerie glow emanating from the blue cube ornament on the bedside table behind him. Wow! A CP weapon. I've been grinding for this female gunner for so long, and I finally got a CP weapon. If I hadn't gotten one soon, I would have had to exchange for it with boxes. The person picked up the item, planning to assign the hand cannon to their female gunner character, Rainbow in the Rain, after finishing this wave of noble privileges. But before their joy could continue, a series of words flashed rapidly across the monitor's screen. What's that thing behind the streamer? It's all blue, a bedside lamp? One of Marvel's Infinity Stones, the Space Stone. This thing is the Tesseract. The little ornament is quite cute, but something looks a bit off. Is it leaking electricity? Streamer, your bedside lamp behind you is leaking electricity. Leaking electricity? What's leaking electricity? The person turned around, looking at the blue light emanating from the little ornament on the bedside table not far away, flickering as if it was about to turn off at any moment. Oh, this thing, it's a piece of merchandise I bought on Teo before. Maybe the quality is bad, I'll unplug it. He didn't think much of it. Anyway, the little ornament wasn't expensive, so it was fine if it broke. As a not-so-Marvel fan, besides this Tesseract, he also had a Tony Stark's heart to play with. Hey streamer, be careful. My hairdryer's power cord short-circuited, and I almost burned my finger trying to unplug it. Yet, especially with old wiring, it's easy to burn through and shock people. Ignoring the comments, the person got up to pick up the little ornament, fumbling with the wiring to pull the plug off. Whoosh! Boom! They say when you're down on your luck, even drinking cold water will cause problems. When the chance to time travel comes, there's no escaping it no matter what you do. Sure enough, this person's life is just plain stupid. Holy crap! That was great, streamer. Great job. Even Professor Yang would give you a thumbs up. Straight now. Streamer's straight for life. Call the police. Call the ambulance. Hope he's alright. Recharge successful. DNF system is loading. Current account is connecting. Please do not disconnect. In a daze, a mechanical voice echoed in his ears. The familiar words recharge reminded him of the phrase, "Dubnz, recharge another 500. Connection complete. Please select a character. Abnormal host status detected. Entering default mode. Female gunner is currently logging in. Default? What default?" The man shuddered, suddenly sat up, his head buzzing instantly, a rapid wave of dizziness washing over him, forcing him to lie back down. Network connection failed. Reconnecting. Loading. Auction house open. Gold coin consignment system open. Marvel Universe, America, S.H.I.E.L.D. secret laboratory. A strong energy shockwave covered the entire laboratory. Several laboratory personnel lay unconscious on the ground. The entire experimental area was a mess. Only the Tesseract in the center of the room emitted a ghostly blue glow in the darkness. 20 minutes later, Director, the experimental records show that the Tesseract just released a strong energy wave, and its energy was hundreds of times higher than the data index we recorded. Besides that, what are the reactions of the experimental personnel? In the narrow corridor, a man with a high hairline followed a dark-faced, one-eyed man and quickly ran towards the experimental area where the shockwave had occurred. All personnel are currently under control, but most of them have not yet woken up. Tests show that their bodies are still normal, but there is one exception. Carlson quickly checked the information on his tablet and handed it to the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. beside him. Nick Fury frowned upon hearing this, stopped, and took the tablet. A female experimenter named Leni was displayed on it in full. Her name is Leni, 21 years old, from California, and one of the experimental assistants in this experiment. She was the first to be hit by the energy burst, and therefore suffered the most severe radiation effects. Monitoring showed that she died the instant the energy hit her, but miraculously, 17 minutes and 24 seconds later, she regained her heartbeat and consciousness, coming back to life. The tablet played surveillance footage from the experimental area. The energy burst caused a power outage in the entire area, but the monitoring system, which restored backup power, captured an astonishing scene. Her body, originally riddled with wounds from the cosmic cube's energy burst, was visibly healing until no trace of injury remained. During this time, the woman even suddenly sat up, then fainted again as if in a final burst of energy. Nick Fury's remaining eye narrowed, the sight reminding him of someone. Seal this surveillance footage separately, set the security level to 10, and keep her under separate control. I want to see her personally when she wakes up. Yes. Attempting to connect to the server. Server connection failed. Offline mode activated. The mechanical voice rang in her ears again. Leni, her head throbbing, was a little disoriented, not even feeling anything amiss. Offline mode activated. Current selected class, female gunner. Please select a bound character. Rainbow in the rain, she mumbled groggily. Confirmed. Bound successfully. Current character, Leni, class, female gunner, character template, Rainbow in the rain, level, LV, 1. The incessant chatter finally gave Leni some clues, but the flood of information made her temples throb again. Wait, what are you? A system? Where am I? As a seasoned otaku who has been immersed in games, novels, movies, and anime for many years, he can understand and accept the concept of a system, but this outdated, disconnected city vibe really makes him feel a bit out of place. Welcome to the Dungeon and Fighter system. Please complete the newbie quests to unlock the warehouse system. Huh? It really is Dungeon and Fighter, huh? So, where is this? Our odd continent? No, currently located in the Marvel Universe, year 2010, America. Leni sat up abruptly in surprise. What the hell? The Marvel Universe? How did a DNF system end up in the Marvel Universe? System error, cause unknown. Fine, I can't rely on you. I'll open the system page and see for myself. Character, Leni, race, celestial, class, female gunner, subclass, alchemist, character template, rainbow skirt, level, LV, 1 skills, heavy weapon mastery, alchemy, equipment, none quest, newbie quest, please complete the newbie quests to unlock the warehouse system. I can understand everything else, but why is the class female gunner? Leni stared at the system interface before her. One hand crossed over her chest, the other supporting her chin in deep thought. Wait a minute. Leni felt the sensation from her forearms and slowly looked down, involuntarily gasping for breath. Cyrillic lettered X. The system has detected that the host is in a near-death state, therefore everything is set to default mode. Default mode? Leni slapped her forehead. Why the hell did I even bother creating a female gunner? Please complete the beginner quests to unlock the warehouse system. What's the rush? Let me have a moment. Chapter 2 Leni Testarossa Stark. After a few minutes of adjustment and some trial and error, Leni accepted the reality. Recalling her experience before she transmigrated, she couldn't help but exclaim, touching an electric door really does allow you to transmigrate. Teacher Guo wasn't lying to me. System, activate beginner mission. Beginner mission 1 pass the investigation of Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D, escape the threat of death, and be promoted to level 6 agent. Rewards, character inventory system upgrade ticket. Looking at the only mission description in the mission list, Leni was still somewhat confused. However, the part of her memories that didn't belong to her gradually made her understand her current situation. The owner of this body was named Leni, living in California. From a young age, she was an outstanding student, graduating from the physics department of MIT at the young age of 20. Her life experiences for the first 20-odd years could be completely summarized by the word genius. But in the talent-rich MIT, such geniuses were commonplace, the number one being the famous playboy with the same surname as her, Tony Stark. Before graduating, her predecessor had already received a special recruitment offer from S.H.I.E.L.D's research department and was assigned to participate in the Tesseract research project for a year, possessing level 5 research personnel privileges within S.H.I.E.L.D. However, Leni's understanding of S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually incomplete. She had only joined the research department and was merely an assistant in the project, usually doing odd jobs for the real big shots. Thinking of this, Leni realized, I really can't escape the clutches of the Marvel newbie village. Since that's the case, she'll deal with whatever comes her way. Director, Leni is awake. Coulson, having received a report from the monitoring personnel, slowly walked to the director, who was deep in thought. Nick Fury, interrupted from his thoughts, immediately stood up. Let's go see her. Passing through a series of isolation doors, Nick Fury observed the situation on the monitor via his tablet. Leni, currently in a small cubicle, sat steadily on the bed, seemingly deep in thought. There was neither crying nor hysteria. This calmness lived up to the assessment given by the investigation team. Is this how she woke up? Coulson followed closely behind the director. At first, she seemed a little confused, but after a short rest, she's been staying there quietly. So far, she seems normal. Interesting. The heavy metal door opened, and Nick Fury and Coulson entered the small cubicle. The director plopped down in the only chair in the room. Noticing their arrival, Renee shifted her gaze from the system screen to the face of the renowned director. Leni Testarossa Stark, Level 5 researcher at S.H.I.E.L.D, anything you'd like to say? After a long silence, Renee didn't answer the director's question but instead asked abruptly, could I have a hot coffee? Sure. Nick Fury acted very casually, showing none of the imposing manner of an S.H.I.E.L.D agent leader. He glanced at Coulson beside him, gesturing for him to prepare a cup of coffee. Add more sugar, please. Coulson remained silent, glanced at the two of them, turned and left the room, closing the door behind him. He then strode to the monitoring room of the testing base. He told the agents inside to rest for a while, then sat down and operated the computer to shut down the monitor in the corner of the cubicle. However, Sitwell, who was coming out of the break room not far away, witnessed this scene and frowned slightly. After Coulson left, Nick Fury leisurely looked at Leni, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed. He wanted to see how this young researcher planned to explain. As you can see, sir, Leni pointed to herself, I am dead. Multiple fatal wounds all over my body, my heart stopped beating for 17 minutes, no vital signs, yet now I'm sitting alive in front of me. You could say I've died once. Nick Fury was an old agent, and a season 1 at that. He still had a strange old-fashioned pager in his shirt pocket. Having witnessed the power of the cosmic cube, he knew perfectly well what would happen if you were hit by that energy shockwave. Resurrected from the dead? You're not going to send me to the lab next door for dissection, are you? If I wanted to, you'd probably be lying in a pool full of formaldehyde by now. Tisk, I was just kidding. Noticing the indicator light on the monitor in the corner had gone out, Leni, after a moment of silence, continued, do you know about parallel universes? The director didn't answer, simply watching Leni's performance in silence. Or rather, my former self, the owner of this body, Leni Testarossa Stark, undoubtedly died in the accident just now. In that instant, I truly felt death. But miraculously, I came back to life, with a new memory in my mind. How to put it? This memory is incredibly real, like something I experienced now, or something I experienced in a parallel world. Schizophrenia? No, where should I begin? In that world, I was born in a place called Celestial Realm, with equally advanced technology. There was a royal capital there, Ghent. Leni had dragged her feet for so long, thinking hard about how to complete this beginner's quest. The simplest way was to tell the truth. After all, this old agent chief had seen countless lies, he could tell the truth from the lie immediately. But how to tell the truth, and what truth to tell, was the problem. After much deliberation, Leni decided to tell this one-eyed old man, who was several decades old but had contact with alien races, a whole lot of nonsense, the story of DNF. I am a soldier from the Imperial Capital garrison called Princess Courtyard. As the most elite unit in the Princess Courtyard, we serve only the princess. But the turmoil in Ghent dealt us a heavy blow. The princess was kidnapped, the Princess Courtyard was disbanded, and I was captured by the enemy. This story went on for a long time, but fortunately, it was all background information for the female gunner in DNF. Combined with the game's plot, Leni's detailed and vivid narration really fooled the old agent in front of her. After resolving the crisis, we decided to go to the dimensional storm to repair the chaotic space-time. But unexpectedly, an accidental explosion in the dimensional space-time brought me here. Imperial Capital Garrison Soldier, Ghent, the capital of the gods, our odd continent, Apostle. Nick Fury closed his eyes and sorted through the information. As a top agent who had been to Earth, He wasn't entirely unable to accept Leni's theory of parallel universes. Although Nick Fury initially thought this woman was making up a story, the detailed plot and the logic between the beginning and end were definitely not something that could be made up casually. Of course, it's possible this person was prepared all along. After all, the story sounded like a fantasy novel. So, who are you now? Leni shrugged. Sir, I am who I am, Leni, but I think I am also Leni Testarossa. I have her memories, and she has my soul. The director's single eye sharpened again, staring intently into Leni's eyes. Although Leni didn't understand interrogation techniques, and in her past life she was just a shut-in, she had seen similar scenarios in movies. Even though her palms were sweating, her heart was pounding with fear, and even though the murderous or oppositor chilled her to the bone, she finally mustered her courage and met Nick Fury's eyes. After a long while, Nick Fury finally softened his aggressive demeanor. In that case, you're no longer fit to stay here. Come to headquarters tomorrow, I need to get to the bottom of this. With that, the director got up and left the room. As you wish, sir. Nick Fury had barely sat down in his office when there was a knock on the door. It was Kelson. Chief, the surveillance footage has been disposed of. Nick Fury nodded, leaning back in his chair, his brow still furrowed. How much of what she said is true? Kelson paused for a moment. If it were before, I would have thought this guy was probably mentally unstable, but what she just said was indeed very vivid. If it's true, then we'll probably have to suspend the Tesseract experiment for a while. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility of schizophrenia. She's hiding a lot of things, and a soldier from the capital? I can't see a single trace of a soldier in her, she just doesn't have that air about her. Yes, I'm skeptical about that too. Alright, take her back to headquarters tomorrow for a physical exam. I want to see what tricks this so-called celestial being can pull. Yes, sir, Kelson replied. Also, if she's lying, get rid of her cleanly. What's going on here must not be leaked. Understood. Chapter 3 Warehouse System Unlocked. To ensure the safety of the testing base, Kelson arranged for Leni to be transferred overnight. She was secretly placed in a residence under S.H.I.E.L.D, and a large number of people were deployed to monitor her. Leni was initially a little apprehensive upon arriving in this world, but she quickly relaxed, as this world wasn't too different from what she had imagined. With the addition of the DNF system and the fact that the timeline was still relatively early in the Marvel Universe's main storyline, as long as she could quickly accumulate levels and improve her attributes, surviving in this world shouldn't be too difficult. Tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep, Leni could only repeatedly rehearse her journey to S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters the next day in her mind. If she could complete the task set by the system, she could prove her worth through the warehouse system, and then use S.H.I.E.L.D as a springboard to survive in this dangerous world. Of course, she also had to be wary of Hydra and find a way to keep them at bay, at least preventing them from targeting her too early, otherwise she probably wouldn't survive more than a few episodes. Nothing was said that night. Early the next morning, Kelson arrived with fresh clothes he had prepared. After Leni got ready, they headed to S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters together. You didn't sleep well last night? Kelson asked, his back to Leni, but he showed no intention of leaving the room. A little insomnia. That's normal. Suddenly arriving in a strange world, going to an unfamiliar environment, it's normal to have trouble sleeping. Leni tidied her hair and clothes slightly, then looked up and asked, what do I need to prepare? Kelson turned to Leni and said, I'll take you to see the director first, then take you for a physical examination to see if the previous incident affected your health. I think I'm not only fine, but in excellent condition. I hope so. In the car, Leni inquired about information regarding S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters. She remembered searching for information about the organization online when she worked in the lab. However, because S.H.I.E.L.D was very secretive and had strict control over the public, and because she had only been in contact with a local S.H.I.E.L.D branch at the time, she had never met higher-ranking agents. So Leni only knew that S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters was in Washington, D.C., but had never actually been there. It wasn't until she stood beneath the Trident building, a sight previously only seen in movies, that Leni finally witnessed the legendary S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters. Located on Roosevelt Island in Washington, D.C., the Trident building boasts a simple yet grand architectural style, its cylindrical structure sitting solidly beside the Potomac River. The entire building is white, and the S.H.I.E.L.D logo on top exudes a solemn aura under the sunlight, creating a truly awe-inspiring sight. "Let's go, I'll take you up." Coulson clapped his hands and led the way inside. Along the way, Leni saw many men and women in suits and business attire, each with a serious and focused expression. Yet, their greetings were no different from those of any other office worker in the city. As they passed through the lobby, a group of people in black special forces uniforms were leaving in another direction. Leni carefully observed them and realized that the leader looked very familiar. They're from a special department, a rapid response force. Reporting only to S.H.I.E.L.D. Their leader is Brock Rumlow, a very reliable guy, Coulson explained. The brute force? Coulson didn't answer, instead continuing to walk inside, saying as he went, "I'll take you to see the director first, then I'll take you for a medical checkup." Leni understood and remained silent. "Director, the person has been brought." Coulson knocked on the director's office door and said respectfully, "Bring her in." "Yes." Coulson opened the door and gestured for Leni to follow him in. Behind the desk was still the one-eyed, bald-headed man that met yesterday, still wearing that black leather coat. It was only because the air conditioning in the room was reliable that this guy would probably get heat stroke sooner or later. The director was currently reviewing documents when he heard footsteps and looked up. "We meet again, Miss Royal Capital." "Good morning, Director. I need you to explain everything you know clearly, word for word." "Of course, like I said yesterday, I am her, and she is me." "So, you are now both Renee and a celestial from another world?" "Yes, we are merging. I live in her body, and she exists in my soul." "And she told me that this situation at S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't an isolated case?" "What do you mean?" Nick Fury frowned, involuntarily thinking of something in his arms. "Wait a minute, she's about to fall asleep." Renee started playing the charlatan. She said, "What's Project Pegasus?" "Captain?" "Shut up." Nick suddenly sat up. "I understand your situation. From now on, your clearance level is raised to level 6. Don't mention this matter again, and what you said will be sealed away. The clearance level is level 8. Renee shrugged, having no objections. It worked. Sure enough, this bald-headed guy and Captain Marvel have something going for them. They get excited just from mentioning a name. Newbie Quest 1 completed, warehouse system unlocked, Newbie Quest 2 now open, please complete as soon as possible. As 2 lines of text flashed before her eyes, Leni suddenly felt a familiar sensation wash over her. At this moment, just like in the story she had created, fragments of memories that weren't originally hers were frantically flooding into Leni's mind. Grand Forest, Sky City, the Celestial Beast, Gant, the Void Ancestor, the Demon Realm, the Apostles, scenes she had experienced in the game unfolded before her as if they had truly happened, until a figure appeared before her. Was it Hilda? Who? As if sensing something, her second sister in her mind suddenly turned around. A strong sense of fear enveloped her entire body. Leni felt as if her soul had returned to its shell, her consciousness quickly withdrawing, and then she trembled. Nick Fury noticed Leni's abnormality, signaled to Coulson beside him to pay attention, and then asked, "What's wrong?" Leni came to her senses. The powerful apostle aura almost made her breathless. It's alright, I think we've become one." Hearing this, the two beside her exchanged glances, not quite understanding what Renee meant. "What do you mean?" Renee didn't answer immediately, but pretended to try to recall the past while quickly browsing her attribute information. Character, Leni Testarossa Stark. Race, Celestial. Class, Gunner. Subclass, Alchemist. Character template, Rainbow Skirt. Level, LV. 2 skills, Heavy Weapon Mastery, Alchemy. Equipment, None Quest. Newbie Quest 2, gain the trust of Nick Fury and Phil Coulson. Reward, Class Skill Weapon Arsenal, upgrade ticket +1. Nothing else mattered. What Renee cared about most was this Newbie Quest 2. Gain trust? Coulson was fine, but Nick Fury, that old man Bitten, didn't trust anyone except Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. What kind of Newbie Quest was this? After some thought, Renee focused her attention on the newly unlocked storage system, a sudden inspiration striking her. "Perhaps I can prove to you that what I said is true. You can take a look at this first," she said, casually extending her hand to the side. A bizarre scene unfolded. Her right hand seemed to plunge into a clear spring, ripples rising and falling in the space beside her wrist. Seeing this, Nick Fury's pupils constricted, his expression one of shock. "How is this possible?" How did you do that? You didn't see wrong, Renee said calmly, withdrawing her hand. This is the ability of the Celestials, not magic, but celestial technology. You can think of it as a storage room. You mean, a spatial storage room, a subspace storage facility specifically for weapons, equipment, and supplies. You've gained the ability to manipulate space? Carlson asked, his face filled with disbelief. To be precise, it's not that I'm controlling space, but rather that space has granted me that authority, Renee said with a profound expression. Leni Testarossa, let's talk, Nick Fury suddenly spoke up. What do you want to talk about? About S.H.I.E.L.D, about your warehouse. How do you want to talk about it? Leni thought to herself, she'd taken the bait. Chapter 4 I mean 10 million gold coins. I think you should know what S.H.I.E.L.D's mission is, Nick Fury replied seriously. How so? S.H.I.E.L.D is dedicated to maintaining world peace and stability. We specialize in dealing with extreme threats, including superhumans with special abilities. Are you threatening me? Of course not. Whether you're a threat or not is up to you. Nick Fury finished speaking and fell silent, staring at the person opposite him with sharp, scrutinizing eyes. Leni felt uneasy under his gaze, like a lamb being watched by a hunter, uncomfortable all over. Fine, you win. Tell me, what do you want? Your ability. My profession is a gunner. Leni took a deep breath, trying not to show any fear. My ability is nothing more than a trick commonly used by Celestials. I only need to access permissions to connect to my own warp storage at any time. How do you access permissions? It's not that I don't want to teach you, but I don't even understand this myself. I'm a gunner, not a mechanic. This is a mechanic's prerogative. To put it bluntly, I only have the account and password for this warp, not its administrator privileges. Nick Fury didn't understand, glancing at Carlson, who also shook his head, indicating he didn't understand either. Well, let's put it this way, the warp was created by the mechanics. As a combatant, I have the account and password for this storage, and I can open it at any time by entering the password. But I'm not a mechanic, I can't create storage for others, nor can I register accounts for them. This analogy is quite vivid. However, Leni hesitated. But what? Besides being a gunner, I also mastered a magical alchemy while traveling in Arad. I'm an alchemist now. Alchemists can create alchemical tools, that's what it's called in my original world, of course. I have some in stock in my warehouse, I think you'll be interested. Hearing this, Nick Fury temporarily shifted his attention from the void warehouse. Alchemical tools, magical items, magical materials? Did you say that people from the celestial realm don't know magic? Leni replied matter-of-factly, after falling from the sky sea, I landed on the Arad continent, where I met an alchemy master. And alchemy is science where we are, do you understand science? Nick Fury remained non-committal. How much do you have? I don't have many materials left, but I do have some potions. Potions? Nick Fury raised an eyebrow. What kind of potions? Alchemical potions. For example, golden goat's milk, which is goat's milk produced by the legendary golden goat. After being enhanced by alchemy, it can heal injuries and restore life. Is what you're saying true? I have no reason to lie to you. Leni leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and looked directly at him. If she didn't produce something of value today, she probably wouldn't be able to leave this room. Nick Fury pondered for a moment, then spoke. In that case, I need you to provide these things, whatever price you want. I don't have much of this potion in stock myself, after all, the materials to make it are no longer available in this world. Leni reached into the void again and pulled out a bottle of golden goat's milk, handing it over. It was a bottle of milky white liquid emitting a rich fragrance, with several dazzling ruby-like particles floating inside, clearly some kind of rare and scarce resource. Seeing Leni so easily retrieve something from a nearby space, Nick Fury's face showed surprise again. How big is this storage space of yours? Nick Fury tried to get more information about Renee's storage space. Just very big. How exactly? As big as you want. Renee's tone was exceptionally certain. After all, a single compartment could stack up to 999 storage spaces, making it impossible to judge its size using conventional three-dimensional data. Seeing that she wasn't going to elaborate, Nick Fury didn't press the matter, instead examining the alchemical potion in his hand. We need it. Nick Fury said without hesitation after careful examination. He naturally didn't want to give up such a precious potion. Are you sure? Renee countered. Yes, I'm absolutely sure. Nick Fury nodded solemnly. He knew the value of this item. How do you want to cooperate? Renee continued. How will you pay me for this? How much money do you want? Not much, $500,000 will do. Renee's words surprised Nick Fury. One bottle? One bottle, Renee said confidently. Okay, in that case, I agree. $500,000, but I need a lot. Alright, here are 100 bottles for you. Taken aback by the sudden amount, Nick Fury called out to Leni, who was about to get up. Wait? What's wrong? Didn't you say you didn't have much stock? Nick Fury's eye twitched slightly. It's true I don't have much stock. After all, this stuff is a non-renewable resource now. Even if I could make it, I don't have the raw materials. But I have quite a few substitutes with similar effects. And I have another condition, Leni said. What condition? Nick Fury looked suspicious. I have some gold coins from my original world in my warehouse. I need you to help me sell them and exchange them for US dollars. I think that shouldn't be too difficult for you. Gold coins? You still use this kind of traditional currency? Leni took one out of thin air and placed it on the table. Yes, this is it. No problem. Nick Fury nodded and then said, we can sign a contract. You need to hand over these gold coins to us and we'll take 50% of the fee. How much? 50%. Leni knew this guy was ruthless, but she didn't expect him to be this outrageous. Don't even think about it. I'll give you 10% at most. You don't agree? Nick Fury completely ignored Leni's bargaining. If you don't agree, then so be it. Carlson, have Rumlow come over. Tell him the biological research department has new experimental subjects. No. We can talk. How can you turn your back on me so easily? Seeing Carlson about to turn around and call for help, Leni quickly softened her stance. Damn it, that damn Nick Fury, one day I'll get the Winter Soldier to kill you. How about this? You don't want 50%, I don't want 10%, how about 25%, that's the most I can offer. Nick Fury glanced at Leni, then said calmly, 40%. Leni gritted her teeth. If she weren't currently trapped under S.H.I.E.L.D's control, she wouldn't have bothered with this guy for such a losing proposition. 30% at most. I'm warning you, don't go too far. I'll just find someone outside to exchange it myself. Leni practically spat this out through gritted teeth, but the bald-headed guy didn't care. You can go out and find someone to help you wash it, but those ruthless IRS guys won't necessarily talk to you as calmly as I am. You fucking. Leni was speechless. Had she really shot herself in the foot? Was she the scapegoat? However, Nick Fury suddenly changed his tone, picking up a gold coin from the table and playing with it. 30% isn't out of the question. But you have to promise that what you have won't end up in the hands of other factions. Hearing this, Leni was stunned for a moment, then she understood what this guy meant. He was just worried that she would secretly sell alchemical potions to rival factions, which wasn't a problem. Okay, I agree, but I want the laundered money after taxes. I don't want to get into trouble with the IRS. Of course. Nick Fury laughed. How much do you need to exchange? Leni smiled slyly. I have a few $100 million on hand, so I'll exchange $10 million first. $10 million, right? I'll have my men transfer it to you right now, Carlson. I mean 10 million gold coins. Nick Fury was taken aback. Wait, you mean you have a few $100 million of those gold coins? A drop in the ocean. That's not even enough for me to get that old hag Kelly to upgrade my equipment. Kelly is? It's not important. She's a black marketeer. Let's continue talking about the gold coins. Alright, I'll have Carlson handle it later. The first payment will be deposited into your account tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Nick Fury. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Nick Fury shook hands with them, watched them leave, and then picked up the bottle of golden goat milk again. After leaving the director's office, Leni and Carlson underwent a full physical examination. As expected, all her stats far exceeded the human average: strength, speed, reaction time, and even regenerative abilities. However, that was all. At only level 2, her physical capabilities were merely above average, not superhuman. Afterwards, the two went to the shooting range. In front of a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents training alongside her, Leni demonstrated what a gunner truly was. From rifles and light machine guns to sniper rifles, heavy machine guns, and rocket launchers, she effortlessly mastered every single weapon she could handle, with terrifying accuracy. "Is this what a gunner is?" Coulson remarked. "Of course, what else did you think?" Leni said with a smirk. "This is just the most basic thing in our world. Without magic, technology became our only weapon against the dragons." Hearing about dragons, Coulson's interest was piqued. "Are the dragons in your world the legendary evil dragons?" Leni checked the receiver of her empty MK-48 Mod 0 light machine gun and adjusted the noise-canceling headphones around her neck. "More or less. The Tyrannosaurus King Bakal was a dragon in his true form. As an apostle, even the energy explosion he produced upon death could shatter the entire celestial realm. Compare that to Nidhogg from Norse mythology. Come to think of it, I did see him once." Coulson nodded, but something still felt off. "Wait a minute, didn't you say your country was established after Bakal's death, and you're also a member of the princess's personal guard? So how did you meet Bakal?" "Time travel." Leni still didn't take it seriously. For someone who followed the plot, this was second nature. The spacetime of the Arad continent isn't completely stable, just like in Norse mythology, where Earth is the center of the 9 realms. The Arad continent is also part of many spaces, and the barriers between different spacetimes aren't strong. There are even spacetime rifts. By chance, I returned to the former celestial realm and met Bakal in his palace. After saying this, she put her headphones back on, reloaded the machine gun, cocked it, and unleashed another burst of recoilless fire. Watching the distant metal target clang and clatter until finally a round hole was blasted through its center, Coulson didn't press further. He silently memorized this information, intending to record it in his report later. He then casually picked up the tablet beside him and recorded Leni's shooting data. Chapter 5 Alchemical Relics, Remy's Aid. Boom. Bang bang bang. Accompanied by a continuous barrage of gunfire, everyone in the underground shooting range focused their attention on Leni, speculating about where Coulson had found this monster. That felt good. Leni stretched, that familiar feeling returning, as if it were innate. As long as she held a firearm, except for light weapons like pistols and submachine guns which were less accurate, she was proficient in all individual heavy firepower weapons to an almost freakish degree. Who has ever seen someone who could control a light machine gun so precisely, especially a woman who didn't look particularly strong? "Okay, I've had my fun. Let's go hand over the goods." Hearing this, Coulson put away his tablet, nodded, and greeted the stunned logistics personnel standing nearby. The two then headed together to the secret underground warehouse. Sitting at a table in a corner of the warehouse, Leni got straight to the point. "Alchemical potions are a very rare commodity, and I can only provide you with a limited quantity. Moreover, they aren't a panacea." Coulson listened attentively, tablet in hand, without interrupting. "Ultimately, it's just a potion that accelerates healing. It can't regenerate limbs or bring the dead back to life. That would be too terrifying." As she spoke, Leni gestured for Coulson to extend his hand, picking up a small knife from the table. Coulson understood her meaning, frowned slightly, but still offered his left hand. It was just the two of them here. For secrecy, no other agents had been called. Judging from her expression, it was probably too late to notify anyone now. "Don't worry, I'm reliable." Leni noticed his hesitation, but her actions didn't falter. She quickly made a cut in his palm, then tossed the dagger aside. Next, she picked up the golden goat's milk from the table, uncorked it, and slowly poured the crystalline liquid onto the bleeding wound. "Now, you can feel the temperature of the wound. That way, you can better understand its effects." Coulson nodded, staring at his palm where the wound was healing rapidly, soon completely healed. "It's a miracle," Coulson exclaimed. Leni ignored him, handing him the half-full bottle of golden goat milk. "Drink the rest. Don't say I'm cheating you, consider this a gift." "Thank you." Coulson didn't stand on ceremony, tilting his head back and downing the alchemical potion in one gulp. Instantly, he felt warm all over, as if basking in the warm sun. The feeling was incredibly comfortable, like stepping out of a hot bath, leaving him feeling refreshed and relaxed. Leni glanced at the small knife beside the table and chuckled inwardly. "This Coulson really trusts me. Since that's the case, I'll return the favor." She reached into the air and retrieved bottles of golden goat milk, along with a dozen or so crystal-clear pieces. A pristine white hand was carved into the crystal surface. It was none other than the beloved Remy's Aid from the game. "This is Remy's Aid," A similar alchemical artifact. It looks like crystal, but its effects are the same as golden goat's milk. Just crush it to use. You can take one to someone later to try, as long as it's not a fatal wound, it can heal them in a short time. Carlson took it, examining the crystal from all angles. The so-called Remy's aid was only the size of a playing card, about the thickness of 2 coins, making it much more portable than golden goat's milk. Is this for you too? Leni rolled her eyes at him. Take it. Consider it your errand fee for exchanging gold coins for me. She then conjured a large box from thin air, filled with the gold coins, far less than 10 million, but still a good 10,000. After much deliberation, Leni decided that instead of exchanging these gold coins for US dollars, it would be better to trade them directly with S.H.I.E.L.D using alchemical potions. Not only was it inconvenient, but the gold coins themselves wouldn't be easy to sell. Most importantly, as long as she could acquire shares in Stark Industries, money was nothing to her. The gold coins didn't take up much space in the warehouse anyway, so she could let the rest gather dust. That's all. Any more is useless, and I'll have to give you a third anyway. Exchange these for now, and then transfer the money to me as soon as possible, I need it later. Carlson didn't pry into why Leni had changed her mind. He estimated the amount of gold coins and had a general idea of what to expect, planning to send someone to handle it later. Well then, that's enough for today. Here's your ID card. Headquarters has arranged a lounge for you, you can settle in there temporarily tonight. Your old apartment has been disposed of, and all your belongings have been brought back here. Really? Fine, whatever. That apartment hasn't been lived in for a long time anyway. I'll just buy another one. Leni didn't mind, as long as it wasn't a place where she was being held, she didn't care where she lived. I'm glad you don't mind. Tomorrow I'll have someone come and guide you through your agent training. We need you to familiarize yourself with the work here as soon as possible. I'm confident you won't let us down, Miss Leni. No problem. Carlson nodded in satisfaction. Go and rest now, I won't bother you any longer. Okay, go ahead and do your work. Carlson watched Leni's retreating figure disappear through the door, then turned to look at the potion on the table, his eyes narrowing. Leni stepped out of the elevator and entered her private restroom, immediately closing the door tightly and quickly checking the room. This was a very spacious suite, its furnishings almost identical to those in her own home, suggesting it had been specially replicated. That was for the best, saving her the trouble. Leni muttered to herself, then took off her coat and shoes, took a comfortable bath, changed into her pajamas, climbed into bed, pulled up the covers, and closed her eyes contentedly. The next day, Leni woke up early, frowning slightly at the familiar yet unfamiliar surroundings. But she didn't bother to dwell on it, although she had been male in her previous life, this body was entirely female. Therefore, washing and dressing felt normal. She picked up the women's suit she had prepared beforehand, dressed neatly, and went out. Taking the elevator, based on yesterday's memories, she headed towards the S.H.I.E.L.D staff dining area. The S.H.I.E.L.D agents passing by all gave this new member, dressed in a women's shirt, a rather unusual look. Wearing a simple yet tasteful business suit, paired with her tall and perfect figure, she exuded a touch of mystery. Combined with her delicate face, she undoubtedly attracted many eyes. Hello, Miss Leni. What would you like to order? Just as she reached the staff dining area, a man approached and stopped her. Thank you, anything for breakfast is fine, I'm not picky, Leni replied politely, not surprised that the man knew her name. Okay, please wait a moment. I'll arrange it right away, the man said politely. After the man left, Leni looked around and realized that there were quite a few other people in the staff cafeteria besides her. These people looked like ordinary white-collar workers or government officials, they didn't seem like a group of special agents at all. Soon, the food was served, and Leni silently enjoyed her meal while observing the actions of those around her. 1 minute, 2 minutes, half an hour. Leni frowned. Wasn't he supposed to arrange her training? Apart from that man, no one else had come to find her. What's going on? I finished my coffee, where is Carlson? Wasn't he supposed to be working for me from now on? Just then, footsteps suddenly sounded and approached. Leni looked up and saw 2 men walking towards them. One was very tall, about 1.8 meters, with a muscular build and short, neat black hair, he looked very rugged. It was Brock Rumlow, whom she had met before. Rumlow's sharp, hawk-like eyes scanned Leni, a hint of surprise flashing in them, seemingly quite interested in this very pretty girl. The other man was Agent Kelson. "Good morning, Miss Leni," Kelson greeted her, introducing her to the person beside him. "This is Miss Leni. She just officially joined S.H.I.E.L.D. yesterday." "Hello," Leni smiled faintly in response. "Hello, Miss Leni, you're much prettier than in the photos," Rumlow complimented, extending his hand to shake Leni's. "I am Brock Rumlow, the captain of the Rapid Reaction Force." Chapter 6 The Amazing Leni Stark. Brock Rumlow? The Rapid Reaction Force? So he's the captain? All I remember is that famous elevator scene with Captain America. Leni thought to herself, but didn't show it outwardly. Instead, she politely shook his hand and said, "Good morning. I assume you're in charge of arranging my training today?" "Yes," Rumlow nodded slightly and continued, "Starting today, I'll be arranging a week of grueling training for you. You'll be training with my rapid reaction team this week. If there's nothing else, you can rest first. We'll meet at the training ground in 2 hours." Leni nodded in agreement and turned to look at Kelson. "Given Miss Leni's special status, the director instructed me to inform you that in addition to being a level 6 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., you will be hired as a special consultant for S.H.I.E.L.D., and your identity will be disclosed to a certain extent. We hope to obtain your consent." "You mean?" Leni hesitated for a moment, then understood. "Okay." Rumlow, standing nearby, felt a jolt of excitement. This Leni was indeed extraordinary. Had he missed some important information while he was away on a mission? It seemed he would need to investigate carefully when he returned. "All right, in that case, we won't disturb you any longer. Rumlow will be in charge of your work for the next week." Kelson smiled, then left with Brock Rumlow. Infernal training, compared to fighting the angels, just how rigorous would this so-called infernal training be? Leni couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. S.H.I.E.L.D's infernal training was considered very important within the organization, its purpose being to cultivate outstanding agents and highly intelligent criminal psychologists. It was also to better handle special events, ensuring the completion of missions without casualties. From basic physical training to special skills training, and even some advanced biological training, to improve vigilance and counter-surveillance awareness, and enhance the agent's judgment. As a celestial being with a profession of female gunner, Renee picked up this training very quickly. In just a few days, she displayed amazing strength that left her peers speechless. In addition to the grueling training, Renee also participated in combat operations against criminals with a rapid reaction force. During this process, Renee's abilities inevitably became known to her teammates. Of course, this was because the S.H.I.E.L.D. leadership did not impose many restrictions on this. As long as the clearance level reached level 6, it was permissible. "I never expected that you, who clearly stated in the files that you were a graduate of MIT, would possess such amazing special abilities. Even after seeing it countless times, I still can't believe my eyes," Rumlow said with a light laugh, watching Renee sitting opposite him in the cockpit organizing combat equipment. On the other side, Leni picked up her SCAR-L assault rifle, quickly loaded it, checked the magazine, and disengaged the safety before casually tossing it into the air. "Come on, who is it that beat me to pulp in front of so many people? You really don't give a girl any face." The passengers in the cabin burst into laughter. Yes, it was a special ability. In S.H.I.E.L.D's internal files, Leni's information had been updated to indicate she was a special ability user. In layman's terms, she was a superhuman. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. had kept her celestial being identity and the events in Ghent, the City of Gods, strictly confidential. Currently, only Nick Fury and Kelson knew her secret. Leni didn't object to this, it was impossible to hide it anyway. The explanation of her being a special ability user with a personal storage space was actually more acceptable. After all, this was S.H.I.E.L.D., not an ordinary intelligence organization like the FBI or CIA. When clearance reached a certain level, one would naturally come into contact with superhuman cases. To avoid attracting public attention and minimizing the impact of superpowered individuals, the Rapid Reaction Force's mission is precisely to resolve such special incidents and prevent panic and unrest. Renee's ability allows them to carry more weapons, equipment, supplies, first aid medical supplies, and other battlefield resources. Even light vehicles like motorcycles and small off-road vehicles can be stored in the warehouse, significantly increasing the Rapid Reaction Force's strength. "Just treat me like a normal human," That way I won't feel too awkward. That might be difficult. Rumlow shook his head with a smile, then changed the subject, saying, can your ability be used for defense? Yes, if conditions permit, I can absorb enemy bullets. Renee nodded in affirmation. Upon receiving the affirmative answer, Rumlow's eyes lit up. No wonder you were able to take down that big guy in such a short time, so that's why. I never expected you to be a Super Saiyan. Rumlow had always been fascinated by Renee's ability. In the mission that had just ended, because it was urban warfare, she didn't witness firsthand how Leni, whose legendary feat was later touted as incredible, dealt with that 2-meter-tall giant. She only knew that after a burst of gunfire, Leni caught up with the team. Tisk, it's infuriating. My previous missions were always sniper support, but this time you assigned me to follow the team at the back, and that big guy didn't even glance at you, just let you pass, focusing all his attacks on me. Just thinking about it made her furious. Leni was still seething with anger. She was indeed a special ability user with extraordinary abilities and could accept being specially targeted by the enemy. At the same time, Leni had enough confidence in her abilities. But she never expected things to turn out so tragically today. That big guy, seeing that she was a woman, decided to pick on her. That guy just blasted me with a whole magazine. If I hadn't reacted quickly and used my special ability to collect all the bullets he fired, I'd be riddled with bullets by now. Then that bastard tried to rush at me and punch me, so I got so angry I just blasted him with my hand cannon. The numerous team members listening and looked at Leni's indignant expression and offered sympathetic smiles. But speaking of which, although our special forces team isn't large, we have all sorts of people. But I've never seen an agent like you, able to kill an enemy with a single shot from such a distance, and with such precision. Rumlow said, his face showing intense excitement. This young agent was already the best sniper he had ever seen. He thought it would be great if Leni could be transferred to the Rapid Reaction Force to work for him. However, he heard that Leni would be assigned to Callson's team later, which wasn't a good place. It seemed he'd have to try and recruit her. Leni smiled and said, I call it skillful, you know, gunner, right? Rumlow waved his hand with a smile, then continued. By the way, how did you come up with such a nickname? It really doesn't suit a physics graduate from MIT like you. Leni rolled her eyes at him. What do you know? Guns are my specialty, firepower is king, explosions are art. Okay, but do you know what the others in the department call you? Rumlow pretended to think. What's it again? The amazing Leni Stark, someone shouted. Hearing this nickname, everyone burst into laughter, even Brock Rumlow choked on his own. I really don't understand, it's just a name, is it that funny? Leni was a little confused. Rumlow's smile faded. By the way, your family isn't really related to that rich kid, is it? What the hell does it have to do with me? I don't even know him. And if you keep spreading these rumors, I'll blow you up with one shot, Mr. Rumlow. Leni pouted. Her predecessor had always been very resistant to the Stark surname. Fine, I surrender. Rumlow raised his hands and then made a zipping gesture with his right hand over his mouth. In recent days, everyone had been following Leni's lead and knew her temperament very well. She looked quite ladylike and gentle on the outside, but she was a complete tomboy when they got along. Her personality could be quite wild at times, but fortunately, she had a good heart. Unfortunately, on the battlefield, she was a ruthless character who liked to shove people in the face with those so-called hand cannons. Alright, let's not talk about that anymore. I have a question for you. Rumlow's expression became serious. What is it? During this operation, York was attacked by another group of enemies. You should have noticed those people, right? Yes, I noticed them a long time ago. They're about the same size as ordinary people, around 2 meters tall, with dark skin. They look very strong, not like mercenaries. They didn't seem to intend to linger. After I returned fire, they ran away. You don't need to worry about this, I'll handle it, Rumlow said. You're not suited to deal with them, I'll send another team. Alright then. Leni didn't refuse, after all, her abilities were limited. Since Rumlow didn't want her involved in the operation, she didn't need to say anything more. Okay, then your training will be over when we get back to headquarters. After you finish the mission briefing, you can rest, Rumlow said. Callson will contact you tomorrow. I'll look forward to our next collaboration. Understood. Chapter 7 Callson needs your help. The next day, after a good night's rest, Leni, finally able to relax, finished washing up and tidying herself up before heading back to the dining area. She planned to eat breakfast while waiting for Carlson to come find her. After waiting for a long time without seeing Carlson, she was thinking of going to the underground shooting range to warm up when someone called out to her. "Miss Leni, is this you?" The person who entered was dressed in a smart S.H.I.E.L.D. special agent uniform, with long, dark brown hair neatly styled in a bun, emerald eyes, and a delicate, beautiful face that gave a very pleasant impression. Leni was startled, then quickly recognized her and nodded, saying, "Yes, it's me. May I ask who you are?" The person's expression was very serious. "I am Maria Hill, Miss Leni. Please come with me. We're in trouble. Carlson needs your help." Although she didn't quite understand the situation, after a week of grueling training, Leni was already used to these kinds of emergency missions. Hearing this, she immediately put down her unfinished coffee and got up to follow Maria Hill. "You just said Carlson needs my help? What happened to him?" In the elevator, Leni asked quickly. "It's a long story. Carlson isn't in the department right now, he's in Mexico." Hill stared at the floor display above the elevator and headed straight for Nick Fury's office. This confused Leni even more. She'd only been with the Rapid Reaction Force for a week. How could Carlson have been sent out? The two arrived at the director's office. Maria Hill didn't knock, just pushed the door open and entered. "Boss, Miss Leni's here." The bald-headed man's face darkened. "You should have knocked, Agent Hill." "Knock knock." Agent Hill, showing some respect, knocked twice on the already open door. "Carlson urgently needs help." Nick Fury's face darkened even more. "Miss Leni, here's the data for this mission." Hill pulled up a file on the tablet on the table, handed it to Leni, and then turned and left. It couldn't be more suave. Leni took the tablet and sat on the sofa, quickly browsing through it. The military's caused trouble again? The data showed that the military had recently developed a new type of biovirus in a secret biological laboratory in Maryland. This virus had an extremely high lethality and was highly contagious. After testing, the military planned to secretly transport the samples to another biological laboratory in southern Mexico. However, during the transport, it was attacked by unidentified armed men. It was suspected that someone within the military had leaked the information, and the safe containing the virus samples was stolen and its whereabouts were unknown. A biovirus? Are they planning a biological crisis? Leni muttered to herself, looking at the data. This was a very dangerous virus. It could spread through the air, and infected people wouldn't show any symptoms for a short time. But after half an hour, the virus would spread throughout the respiratory system, causing respiratory failure and eventually cardiopulmonary arrest, leading to death. You have to understand, our job is to protect world peace, but there are always people who like to cause trouble, and we always have to clean up their messes. Nick Fury was also furious. Those brainless idiots in the military would do anything for money. They like to tinker with weapons and ammunition, let alone biological weapons. They'd even sell intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear warheads. Tisk, who's in charge of this operation? General Ross? Isn't that guy pretty reliable? Leni noticed the military personnel list on the documents. There seems to be a mole within the military who leaked the news that the virus samples were going to be transported. General Ross was just a pawn put up by his superiors. The bald-headed man sighed. The biggest worry now is the virus samples. Carlson went there specifically for this. Damn politicians. Leni interrupted him. What do you need me to do? Don't worry, I've already sent Agent Romanoff over. According to our informant, we've located the sample and will be able to retrieve the safe soon. Nick Fury gestured for Leni to continue flipping through the documents. Then why did you call me here? It's about Carlson's plan. Clint Barton looked at the red-haired woman sitting in front of him, who was comfortably enjoying the food on the table. Carlson's plan? Isn't he with the military? He mentioned it before I came to see you. The military can't be trusted anymore. General Ross didn't have time to deploy his special forces to Mexico. The previous attack had already caused a great deal of damage, so, Clint continued, that's why he came to us to find the sample. But what does this have to do with Carlson? Natasha shrugged, glancing at the situation on the street out of the corner of her eye. Carlson doesn't trust the military. Don't forget why they brought a virus here. He wants us to take the samples away or destroy them. Destroying them is definitely out of the question, but how do we take them? Can the department provide support? A transport plane? Or, no, We're not going through the military. Natasha shook her head. Remember that new kid? You mean? Clint thought of someone. Leni Stark? Yes, that's her. She passed Rameau's test and did very well. Natasha's lips curled into a slight smile. Clearly, she was also very interested in this special advisor. If she can come, then we can indeed return to the department via a commercial flight. Clint finally understood Callson's intentions. That's right, but we still need to do one more thing, Nick Fury said, waiting for Leni to finish reading the information on the tablet. Callson needs you to disguise yourself as a tourist, go to Mexico, deliver a fake sample case to him, and then bring the real sample case back. We can't provide transportation for this mission. The area is under heightened tensions, so you'll have to return via commercial flight. And you're the key to this mission. You mean I have to take the real biological weapon, board a passenger plane, and fly back openly? Leni didn't know how to describe it. Wasn't he worried about problems? This operation involves not only Agent Romanoff, but also Agent Patton, and the guys from the Rapid Reaction Force will assist you. As long as the plane takes off from Mexico, the local government won't interfere, and General Ross won't say anything. Leni mentally rehearsed the plan, still feeling uneasy. Will the military let us leave so easily? That's not important. Unless the samples are sent directly to the local biological lab, they won't dare to verify them on the spot. The samples we give them will be the real ones, and you're already on the plane. Nick Fury was confident. This plan was proposed by Callson, and Romanoff had also agreed. The next step was for Romanoff and Barton to get their hands on the samples, and then cooperate with Leni to pull off a clever escape. Okay, I'll go prepare right away. 4 hours later, Leni, who had been given a fast track and arranged by S.H.I.E.L.D, boarded the next available flight and successfully arrived in Mexico. Chewing gum, dressed casually with only a small backpack, Leni looked up at the sky outside the airport through her sunglasses and couldn't help but sigh. Tisk, the atmosphere here is really unfriendly. To avoid arousing suspicion from the military, Leni would not contact Callson's team throughout the operation, only communicating with Agent Romanoff who had arrived earlier. After completing the transaction of the real and fake combination locks, she continued to pose as a tourist, wandering around Mexico City. She then re-established contact with Romanoff, and the group boarded the same flight back to Washington. While it might seem that Leni didn't accomplish anything significant on this mission, the reality is quite the opposite. The core of Callson's plan lies with Leni, this crucial space ability user. Whether it's bringing in the fake sample locks discreetly or taking away the real ones, it all depends on Leni. It's believed that once the military obtains the sample locks, they will rush to the biological laboratory to verify the virus's authenticity. At that point, no matter what, the military will absolutely not allow S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel to take anything away. And the ultimate key to helping Callson and his team successfully escape unscathed lies with Leni. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Who taught you to make contact like this? After leaving the airport, Leni checked into a hotel like any other tourist. After resting briefly, she went out again with only her phone, heading straight to a nearby car rental company. After a brief negotiation, she rented a black Ford F-150 Raptor. She drove around the city for a bit, then found a coffee shop and ordered a coffee to relax. The reason she chose the Raptor F-150 instead of a sports car or luxury vehicle was because it's a true family car in North America, consistently topping sales charts. And this isn't just about pickup trucks, it's about all car sales. In North America, an F-150 is practically unbeatable. This widespread availability means the car isn't particularly conspicuous on the road and doesn't attract much attention. Keep in mind, this is Mexico, and even in Mexico City, which has a relatively good safety record and development, some unpleasant incidents are inevitable. Driving an F-150 might get a couple of glances, but no one would really care. After dealing with two men who tried to flirt with her, Leni got up and went to the restroom. Leni made a mark in the corner of the mirror in the women's restroom with a special marker, then quickly washed her hands and left the coffee shop. Afterwards, she made the same mark in a luxury store and a women's clothing store, did some shopping, and returned to her hotel. The next day, Leni returned to the same coffee shop. Sure enough, a slender, stylish young woman soon entered and sat opposite Leni. "Waiter, a mocha, please." "Okay, please wait a moment." Leni looked at the woman before her, who exuded charm simply by sitting there, and couldn't help but think, no wonder Durant made such a boast. Who wouldn't be confused by this? Leni Stark, the S.H.I.E.L.D. Level 7 agent, codenamed Black Widow, spoke softly. "Yes, Natasha Romanoff?" Leni confirmed her identity as per procedure. Natasha nodded in confirmation, then glanced slightly towards the restroom. "Who taught you to make contact like that?" "Huh?" Leni was taken aback. "Rumlow, what's wrong? Besides, isn't this how they always do it in spy movies?" "Sure enough, only old men would use this kind of trick," Natasha scoffed. "So, Rumlow only taught you how to fight this past week?" He said Callison would be training me later, but..." The cafe was relatively empty, and the two sat by the window in the corner, not worried about being overheard. "But don't you have my contact information?" Natasha interrupted. "Where's the stuff?" It's with me." "Where's yours?" "In my car." "Huh? You just left it in your car like that?" Leni was shocked. Is this what top-tier agents are like? Just casually leaving such a terrifying biological weapon in their car? "What else would I be carrying?" Natasha said dismissively, gesturing to a family sedan parked not far away. "Under the passenger seat of that Chevrolet outside. Aren't you afraid it'll get stolen? If you resolve this quickly, you won't have to worry." Leni thought about it and agreed. The thing had been missing for so long and was still intact, a little longer wouldn't make a difference. The two then spent time like long-lost best friends, drinking coffee, shopping, and browsing malls together until dark. During this time, they each drove to a multi-story parking garage. Leni took the opportunity to quickly store the briefcase containing the real virus sample into the void warehouse and put the S.H.I.E.L.D. replica back in its original position. "I heard that Raimi's aid was provided by you?" Natasha, leaning against a Ford Raptor with her arms crossed, couldn't help but marvel at Leni's amazing magic trick. "Huh? Did the bald guy reveal this?" Leni was taken aback. "Bald head? Huh, I'll pretend I didn't hear that. Slip of the tongue, I meant director. The director didn't announce it publicly, I heard it from Callison. Your stuff is pretty good, can I have a few extra? I can pay." "No problem, but it's not good for you to stay here now, isn't it? Did they say you might be caught by the military later?" "Wait until we get back to the station." "Okay, I'll wait until we get back." At this point, the mission of switching the prince with a cat was half completed, and the rest depended on these top agents. Meanwhile, Agent Romanoff, after separating from Leni, soon contacted Clint Barton, who was under military surveillance. Yes, although the military had requested S.H.I.E.L.D's help for this mission, they didn't want S.H.I.E.L.D. to get the virus sample. The temporary military leader here was also unaware of Natasha's arrival. To avoid leaks from within, General Ross didn't inform the local temporary commander, instead concealing this for S.H.I.E.L.D., while simultaneously conducting a thorough investigation of the informant. Therefore, Natasha's whereabouts remained secret until now. But once the sample cipher box is handed over, Natasha's fact that she, as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, has retrieved it will inevitably be exposed, turning this covert move into an open one. Agent Romanoff will also be subject to surveillance, and even control, by the military personnel here. "The sample has been found," Natasha said succinctly. "Really? Where are you?" Clint glanced at the plainclothes man who often sized him up not far away. "See you at the usual place." After saying that, the other party hung up the phone. Upon hearing this, Clint ignored the monitor and got up to drive to the coffee shop where he had met Natasha before. During their last meeting, Clint had claimed that Natasha was a S.H.I.E.L.D. informant, a classified person helping to find the sample. The military, eager to retrieve the cipher box, did not interfere excessively. However, they increased their surveillance of Clint and Callison afterward, turning what was originally covert surveillance into open tracking. Seeing Agent Patton leave in a hurry, the plainclothes man immediately realized something, spoke a few words into the microphone in his collar, and immediately drove after his target. About 20 minutes later, Clint's car stopped at the open-air cafe he had visited before. Before getting out of the car, Clint put his backpack in the trunk before pushing open the door and entering the cafe. Natasha had been waiting inside for quite some time. Seeing Clint, Natasha stood up. "Long time no see. Long time no see." Clint replied with a smile. The two sat down, and then Clint immediately got straight to the point. How did your business go? Very smoothly. I came here to deliver the samples. You really got them? You weren't hurt, were you? Natasha smiled slightly and handed him the briefcase that was placed beside her. She got a little injured, but that girl's stuff is pretty good, and her abilities are truly amazing. Really? I'll definitely see for myself when we get back. As the two chatted, military personnel who arrived a step later saw the coded briefcase already handed to Clint through the cafe's glass. Report. Agent Barton obtained a briefcase from a woman. Suspected to be a sample-coded briefcase. What? The person opposite was shocked. How could this be? What was going on? Agent Cowlson, also in the temporary command post, noticed the commander's unusual expression, a cold glint flashing in his eyes, but he remained silent. Seemingly realizing his lapse in composure, the commander quickly issued an order, keep a close eye on them. Use force if necessary. Ignoring Cowlson's dark expression, he then ordered the rest of the command post, B1 and B2 teams, assemble. Bring the sample back to me at all costs. This time, there can be no more mistakes, or you'll be executed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Cowlson, his face ashen, was clearly being told to be ruthless, a warning against any underhanded tactics. But Cowlson, a level 8 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, was unwilling to swallow this insult. Colonel Lawrence, what do you mean? Don't you trust my men? Or do you suspect one of them is a mole? The commander put on a friendly, fake smile. Agent Cowlson, what are you saying? I naturally trust S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. I was simply following the law. After all, the sample has already caused trouble once, and my adjutant is still in the interrogation room. At such a critical moment, we can't afford to cause any more problems. Agent Cowlson, please inform your men to keep the sample safe and deliver it to my people as required. That way, everyone can save face. HMPH, in that case, I hope Colonel Lawrence will make proper arrangements. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't want to waste any more time on this matter. Cowlson snorted coldly, then turned to contact Agent Barton. Watching his retreating figure, Colonel Lawrence's gaze turned cold, and he cursed inwardly, shit. Chapter 9. How did you offend that guy? These guys are a bunch of scoundrels. Always like that. Do as he says, Clint. The two S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, who had been calmly chatting in the cafe, were now standing in a very disheveled state on a Mexican street, surrounded by a dozen armed military personnel. A few dozen minutes earlier, Clint had received a call from Cowlson, informing them that the military commander had given an order to act at all costs. To avoid unnecessary conflict, Clint had specifically gestured through the glass to the person following them to relax, saying the sample briefcase was ready to be handed over at any time. But the other person was like a block of wood, completely unmoved, and seemed ready to reach into his pocket at any moment, pull out a Glock, and empty the magazines at the two of them. Is this guy new? Why is he so tense? Clint said, pushing the briefcase towards the window. At the same time, he opened his coat to indicate that he was unarmed, subtly hinting that there were other customers in the cafe. But the soldier wouldn't listen, still staring intently at the two of them. That's really stupid. Clint shook his head helplessly, and Natasha nodded in agreement. The two chatted as they watched the idiot outside. When several SUVs sped up, they got up, picked up their briefcases, and slowly walked out of the cafe, positioned where the other party could see them. This is terrible. It's not like this is the first time you've encountered something like this. Natasha was also angry, but for the sake of the plan, she could only slowly raise her hands above her head. A dozen fully armed soldiers quickly got out of the SUVs. They weren't wearing any insignia. But both sides knew these were rescue personnel sent by the military. Put the briefcase down. I said put the briefcase down. Seeing their own people arrive, the tracking personnel, who had initially been tense, immediately became angry, pulling out a pistol and pointing it at Clint. Hey. Relax, kid. We're not the enemy. I fucking told you to put the briefcase down. Don't ask me what the asterisks are, they all start with F. Clint was furious, but being a guest in their company, he could only obey. Slowly lowering his body, then slowly lowering his right hand that was holding the suitcase, he finally placed it on the ground. Kneel down, turn around, the man said again, causing the other Special Forces members to glance at him. Although their superior had given the order, The two teams weren't enemies, and this pushing their luck was somewhat unnecessary, but none of them stopped him. Clint's eyes grew even colder. "I told you to kneel down." "Turn around," the man repeated, tightening his grip on his gun. Seeing this, the two special agents had no choice but to slowly turn around and kneel towards the cafe entrance. As they did so, one of the dozen or so military personnel immediately stepped forward, quickly approached the suitcase, and scanned it with a special scanner. After confirming through the device's display screen that the box did indeed contain samples, he turned to the squad leader and said, "Boss, the stuff is correct." Having confirmed the samples were safe, the leader immediately ordered, "Okay, mission complete. We can't stay here any longer. Take them both and get out of here. Go. Go. Go." Upon hearing the order, the two well-trained squads sprang into action. Two of them quickly subdued the two agents kneeling on the ground, tied their hands behind their backs with cable ties, and loaded them into the SUV, quickly driving away. Although their movement was swift, the brief delay startled the surrounding civilians. Some even took out their phones to film the incident, causing quite a stir. Inside the vehicle, Natasha, with her hands bound behind her back, cooperated fully throughout. Seeing that the others in the car didn't seem to intend to stop her, she quietly asked her companion, "What exactly did you do to offend that guy?" "Tisk, that guy's as green as a rookie. I tricked him once, so he might hold a grudge," Clint said nonchalantly. "What happened?" "I lured him into a brothel, but I saw he was really angry and wanted to calm him down. That's all. Later, he got beaten up by a dozen women who said he was a coward." PFFT. The Special Forces soldier in the driver's seat couldn't hold back and then feigned a cough to cover his embarrassment. Clint and Natasha had long since realized that these Special Forces personnel and the person following them weren't together, at least not in the same team. These people were probably from a higher-level Special Forces unit, clearly not on the same level as that rookie. Ahem. Quiet. The man in the driver's seat, clearly the team leader, spoke up to quell the somewhat comical atmosphere, then said, "Sorry, gentlemen, we were just doing our job. It's all right, we understand." Silence returned to the car. The team leader's apology was, in principle, unnecessary, but anyone who could reach this position in the team was incredibly shrewd. To retrieve the sample so discreetly, these two agents were clearly no ordinary individuals. Furthermore, based on the available intelligence, the briefcase was likely retrieved by the woman, which made the team leader even more respectful towards her. However, respect aside, offering an explanation was already a great favor to both of them, and to S.H.I.E.L.D, giving them a way out made things easier for everyone. The convoy returned smoothly to the temporary command post without further ado. Upon seeing the briefcase and confirming the sample was still inside, Colonel Lawrence, the commander, immediately began mobilizing the team to leave and consulted General Ross for the next steps. Shortly after ending the communication, Colonel Lawrence ordered Squads B1 and B2 to depart immediately to transport the samples, emphasizing that this operation could not afford any further problems. He also dispatched additional escorts for both squads, striving for absolute safety. Seeing this, Agent Callison said to the colonel, "Colonel, since our mission is complete, can you let my men leave?" The colonel, as if just remembering, hurriedly apologized. Sorry, Agent Callison, I forgot. But please wait a moment. Once all my men have evacuated, you can leave." Callison's face darkened further, but he had no choice but to retreat to the side. Less than 5 minutes later, the temporary command post was emptied, leaving only 2 soldiers and Colonel Lawrence. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Agent Callison. I was only concerned for the safety of the samples. Please forgive me for untying you two." Callison didn't reply, but allowed them to untie the men. "Well then, I'll take my leave." With that, Colonel Lawrence left without looking back. Clint stared at the departing convoy, the rookie's expression replaying in his mind. Is this it? Just like that? S.H.I.E.L.D never accepts negotiations, nor threats. Callison had harbored a suspicion ever since he arrived. Although he lacked evidence, his agent's intuition told him that Colonel Lawrence was suspicious. "Contact Leni, we're heading back to the station. I've already notified her." Natasha showed the two her phone. Half an hour later, Leni, driving a Ford Raptor, picked up several S.H.I.E.L.D agents. Although she was suspicious of their disheveled state, she didn't ask, instead focusing on driving. How long do they expect it to take to discover the problem with the samples? At least 3 hours. From here, without air support, it takes at least 2 hours to get to the nearest biological lab. Add the testing time, and we can still leave Mexico in time, and... Coulson hesitated. And what? Natasha asked curiously. This was her first time at the temporary command post, so she didn't know as much about the situation as Coulson and Clint. They might not make it to the biological lab in time. Coulson recalled what he had seen and heard about Colonel Lawrence over the past few days, coupled with the adjutant's testimony after the incident, making his suspicions even more certain. You mean? Natasha was horrified by his words. Had the mole infiltrated to this extent? Who were these people? I've already reported this to the department. The director has already arranged for people to investigate them. Our top priority right now is to escort Leni back to the department and prevent things from getting any more complicated. Understood. Chapter 10. Didn't Rumlow teach you? When Leni and her group arrived at the airport, several people immediately approached them. Upon recognizing them, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Agent Coulson, the burly man at the head of the group said, extending his hand to shake Coulson's. The director ordered us to come and meet you. The tickets are ready. Okay, mission is paramount, let's get going. Leni recognized a black man as Bart, a member of the S.H.I.E.L.D. rapid response team. He was the one who had shouted the amazing Leni Stark on the S.H.I.E.L.D. plane. Bart? What are you doing here? Where's Rumlow? The director gave him another mission, I don't know the specifics. He took another team, and I'm here to cover you. I see. The group quickly checked in and boarded the plane. By the way, doesn't S.H.I.E.L.D. have its own planes? Leni was also puzzled. Previously, they had always flown military aircraft bearing the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, such as Black Hawks and C-130s. However, they didn't see S.H.I.E.L.D's classic aircraft, the Quinjet. The agency is also working on it. We've had this plan for a while, but development has been slow due to funding issues, which is why we're collaborating with the military. Understood. Leni guessed that it was probably because Tony Stark, S.H.I.E.L.D. special advisor, hadn't arrived yet. Having made thorough preparations, Leni and her group carried nothing more than necessary identification and cell phones. Even the 4 members of the rapid response team who came to pick them up secretly handed their weapons to Leni and stored them in the void warehouse. Therefore, the entire boarding process was incredibly smooth, giving them no chance to linger or waste time. Once the plane took off, the fake sample issue could be left to the director to deal with the military. Inside business class, the S.H.I.E.L.D. members sat relaxed in their seats, only Coulson still deep in thought. Natasha, who had been watching him closely, finally voiced her lingering doubts. Coulson, do you think we've had it too easy? Yes, not just easy, but ridiculously easy. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. It's like those guys deliberately let us go, so easily, all of us together. Just then, Coulson's phone received a message. Reading the message, Coulson's pupils constricted slightly, and he turned to look at Natasha. Could it be? Several people sitting nearby noticed Coulson's unusual behavior, and an ominous premonition filled their hearts. The transport team has been attacked again. No one survived. Hiss. Leni, who had heard everything clearly, couldn't help but gasp. Ling. The indicator above their heads, signaling that they could unbuckle their seatbelts, lit up. The plane had entered a stable flight phase, and the flight attendants began moving around the cabin, asking passengers if they needed assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be serving you meals, tea, coffee, and beverages. Please feel free to choose. Sir, for your safety, please turn off your mobile phone during the flight. Thank you. A beautiful flight attendant approached Coulson with a sweet smile. Ah, sorry, right away. Coulson realized what she meant and put away his phone, which had already gone black. Thank you for your cooperation. With that, the beautiful flight attendant walked away. Watching the departing flight attendant, Coulson whispered to the people around him, this trip is probably not going to be smooth sailing. Did you see them? In a corner of the cabin, a man who had pretended to ask the flight attendant for a drink asked the beautiful flight attendant. Yes, I saw them. I think they are the biggest threat to this flight. The flight attendant's face was grave. HMPH. So what? The man sneered, they weren't carrying any weapons. We checked them at boarding. Even if they are from S.H.I.E.L.D., so what? In the air, we're the ones who call the shots. But. The flight attendant still hesitated. No buts. Do what you're supposed to do. Yes, sir, Leni gave a silent wink to her teammates scattered throughout the cabin, then got up and went to the restroom. A few minutes later, she returned to her seat. Seeing this, the 4 members of the rapid response team took turns getting up and going to the restroom as well, retrieving their weapons from a corner. Fortunately, no other passengers got up to use the restroom during this time. All done. Confirming the success of her teammates, Leni asked Carlson, "What's next? Did it Rumlow teach you?" Carlson checked his Glock pistol, making sure the magazine was full and loaded, carefully concealing it, and asked without looking up. Leni looked embarrassed. This was the second time someone had asked her this question. "He said you teach me later." Natasha, who had also concealed her weapon, smiled. "Confirm the number and location of the enemies. Be alert for any unusual people or objects." 7. Clint replied, observing the cabin from the corner of his eye. "Add that flight attendant from earlier, and that makes 8. Huh? Leni looked around, slightly bewildered. "Keep it down." Clint stopped her rookie behavior and slowly announced the locations. Since boarding the plane, this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, known as Hawkeye, had been constantly monitoring the cabin. The tacit discussion they just had further solidified his judgment. "How come I only spotted 3? And that includes the flight attendant from earlier?" Leni leaned down and asked cautiously. "I think I need to reassess your qualifications," Carlson said helplessly. "Huh? No way. I won't say anything, okay?" Leni was, after all, just a newbie who'd only been involved in the special profession of spies for a week. Although she'd been on the battlefield and experienced combat, it was mostly sniping, demolition, and fire support, with only a few close-quarters combat experiences. After all, the officer in charge of her special training was from a rapid reaction force, a department seemingly closer to military special forces, so she had very few experience with special operations missions. Furthermore, this body itself belonged to a recent college graduate, and in her previous life, she was just a homebody. Even with the memories of a female gunner from the Arad continent, her inner soul was still that of an ordinary person with little worldly experience. Being able to identify 3 people on the spot was already quite impressive. Well then, Carlson shifted his gaze to Natasha and Leni. "In the coming time, each of you find your targets. If the other party makes any unusual movements, open fire immediately." "Yes, sir." "Understood." At this moment, a commotion arose from the first-class cabin and the economy class behind, the continuous noise causing the business class passengers to exchange bewildered glances. This situation caused the flight attendant in the cabin to frown and call out to both cabins via walkie-talkie. But there was no response, which only increased the flight attendant's unease. He swiftly reached for the weapon in his pocket, but his hand was immediately grabbed, and then a hard object pressed against his side. "Relax, this is normal, no need to be so tense." The man had a chilling smile on his face, making the flight attendant shudder. He slowly withdrew his hand from his pocket. "Be good, don't be too tense, I don't want to kill anyone." Seeing the other party's cooperation, the man's smile widened. Sure enough, the noise in both cabins soon subsided, as if the previous commotion had never happened. The flight attendant was puzzled. Weren't these people here to hijack the plane? Why was it so quiet now? The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents on the other side were also confused. They were certain these people were going to hijack the plane, but why weren't they making any moves? What is he planning to do? Clint was also puzzled. "I don't know, but he's probably after us, or maybe the samples." Carlson couldn't figure it out either. Just as the group was filled with confusion, the curtain separating the economy class cabin was pulled open, and a group of fully armed men carrying AKs rushed in. Fuck. Startled by the sudden attack, everyone was terrified and panicked. "Don't move. Shut up if you don't want to die." Seeing this, Leni instinctively reached for her gun, but Carlson grabbed her hand. "Do you want to die? But don't make any rash moves." Natasha also stopped Leni. "Calm down. Do as Natasha says, see what they're up to. They've been holding back for so long, and now they're finally going to start their show." Chapter 11. The women of heaven are all tigresses. Listen up, everyone. Money is just an external thing, but you only have one life. If you don't want to die, then obey me. From front to back, in order, put all your cash, jewelry, and anything of value into my men's bags. Do it in order, and once you have the money, we're leaving. It won't delay you from going back to your mothers," said a man holding an AK-47 and wearing a stocking over his head, who looked like the leader. He also pointed to several men carrying bags, signaling everyone not to make any rash moves. Many passengers wanted to resist, but with guns pointed at them, any slight movement would immediately result in a gun being pointed at their heads. In the end, they could only obediently do as they were told. This included the 7 people Clint had previously emphasized, who all obediently handed over their belongings. "They're not in cahoots?" Leni asked, somewhat confused. "Not necessarily," Callison shook his head. "Maybe they just want to check our luggage." As soon as he finished speaking, the leader ordered the passengers to open the overhead luggage racks in order and take out their personal belongings. The group positioned further back hadn't yet been reached by the terrorists, but the 2 Special Forces members closest to the front were in a bit of trouble. The weapons they just retrieved in the restroom were now being secretly hidden under their seats. Fortunately, their movements were swift and efficient, and they hadn't been discovered by the terrorists. Noticing their gestures indicating a cautious approach, Callison and the others breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't the right time for a major offensive, at least they needed to give everyone a chance to kill with a single shot, otherwise, friendly fire could easily result. 7 hidden targets, 6 terrorists, 1 flight attendant, 8 of us. We need each of us to take out 1 terrorist first, then have 2 of us keep an eye on the other 8 hidden targets. Are you confident? The atmosphere of the battlefield intensified, and Leni unconsciously entered a mystical state. This feeling, which seemed to have been present at every moment, made her realize that her will as a female gunner was gradually taking over, and her heart began to pound even harder. In fact, she had experienced the same feeling many times before. Previously, whenever she went on a mission with a rapid reaction force, the moment she stepped onto the battlefield, she would become a completely different person, calm, decisive, and ruthless. Even Romlo saw her as somewhat insane. The women of the celestial realm are all tigresses. This statement came from Para-Wayne, one of the 7 wings of the celestial realm. Just imagine, even a powerful figure wielding the celestial realm's most advanced technology would utter such a statement. It shows just how terrifying the women of the celestial realm are. Not a big problem, but 2 people watching 7 might not be enough, plus there's a flight attendant. Clint tightened his grip on his pistol. "Then leave it to me. You guys keep an eye on the others. Clint, you handle the 2 on the left, I'll handle the 2 on the right and the guy who coerced the air marshal. Natasha, you handle the back door. Callison, take care of the leader. Get ready to go." After saying this, Leni pretended to reach into her pocket for cash, but in reality, she had already reached into the void, ready to fight at any moment. Callison hesitated for a moment. But seeing that the other 2 were already prepared, and that Leni had the void space, he decided to deal with them as soon as possible. If these guys weren't dealt with, the others in the shadows would pose an even greater threat. Only by bringing them into the open would they be safe. Because this airliner was special, besides the partition between business and first class, there was also a curtain separating economy and business class. The middle section contained the restrooms and the flight attendants' rest area, so even if they made a move here, the other 2 sides wouldn't be able to see what was happening immediately. Without further ado, Callison reached for the pistol in his pocket. As a veteran agent, rapid fire was commonplace. Multiple shots might reduce accuracy, but the first shot would never miss. "Okay, 3, Clint said, his eyes fixed on his 2 targets. He was confident he could take them down one by one at this distance too. Natasha only needed to watch out for the person at the cabin door behind her, and then the 2 men secretly watching them. Fortunately, there was another member of the rapid response team on the other side, Bart, who had come to meet them initially. Bart noticed Callison's hint and understood that these men intended to strike first, so he focused his attention on the individuals he needed to monitor. One. With that command, Leni's hands, which had been reaching into the air, immediately shot out. They were clearly 2 P-30L pistols fitted with HK parts muzzle attachments. Before the terrorists could react, 2 shots rang out, instantly hitting 2 enemies standing further away with AKs in the head. Then, with a slight shift of her right hand, a 3rd shot followed, striking the grinning man, threatening the air marshal between the eyebrows, sending him sprawling to the ground. Finally, she used her second hand to kill the enemy carrying an AK on his back and a bag in his hands. Simultaneously, the other 3 were also instantly eliminated. Clint even displayed a rapid-fire pistol technique, killing with every shot, showcasing his Hawkeye reputation. Though seemingly slow, their actions were incredibly fast, completed in the blink of an eye, giving the terrorists and hidden enemies no chance to react. Get down. FBI. Callison shouted the order with practiced ease, then quickly moved from his seat to make room for his teammates, while simultaneously closing in on the nearest hidden enemy. FBI. Everyone stay put. The others immediately followed suit, moving from their positions. Some tried to retaliate, but were instantly shot dead by the team members who had been watching them closely. After a brief commotion, all the passengers returned to their seats, hands behind their heads, silent and still. Even the children dared not utter a sound. It was clear that the word FBI still held considerable intimidation for these locals. After all, the terrorists had claimed they didn't want to kill indiscriminately, yet they had acted directly. Leni quickly took several cable ties from her jacket pocket and handed them to Clint. Then, several team members swiftly subdued the remaining hidden threats and confiscated their weapons. Seeing that Callison and his team had indeed found weapons on several civilians, the guys who had been about to shout immediately shut up and obediently laid down. Bart, have a few men keep an eye on them. Callison, you guys watch first class, I'm going to the back for a bit, I'll be right back. Before anyone could react, Leni pulled a vial from thin air and, while everyone was obediently looking down, drank it down in one gulp. Wait? Natasha was about to stop her, but Leni had vanished. Then, several gunshots rang out from the economy class cabin, and a moment later, Leni reappeared at the cabin door. The passengers couldn't see her, but the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent saw it clearly. After drinking the unknown potion, Leni had become invisible. When she reappeared, she was back at the cabin door. Damn, 30 seconds really is 30 seconds. Leni seemed somewhat dissatisfied. Leni, what are you doing? Natasha began to ask. We'll talk about it back at the station. Leni cut her off, then went to Callison's side. That flight attendant is still up ahead. I don't know how many people are inside, but there shouldn't be too many. They've deployed too many people here to guard against us. Do you have any ideas? This sudden action caught Callison off guard. He hadn't thought of a plan. While it was somewhat negligent, he didn't know why he'd unconsciously followed Leni's plan. The cabin was cramped, and there was only one door to business class. Getting in unnoticed under normal circumstances would be harder than climbing Mount Everest. However, since Leni had a potion that allowed her to become invisible and enter economy class, sneaking into first class again shouldn't be too difficult. But Leni shook her head. It won't work. It can only be used once in a short time. Using it now won't be effective. Callison thought that made sense. The alchemical potion she sold to S.H.I.E.L.D. also had this limitation. It was reasonable that it couldn't be reused within a certain period. But at this point, they had to solve the problem. Although Leni had weapons, equipment, and parachutes for several people in her storage space, they couldn't abandon these civilians. Just as they were fretting, one of the team members controlling several hidden threats suddenly approached and whispered to Callison and the others, Sir, these guys say they're going to replicate the 9/11 attacks. What? Everyone was shocked and immediately went over to grab one of them. What exactly are you planning to do? The man was the one who had spoken to the flight attendant earlier. Now, despite being held up in mid-air by Bart with one hand, he showed no fear and calmly repeated what he had told his team members earlier. Our goal is to carry out a terrorist attack, so regardless of whether you deal with us or not, as soon as we enter American airspace, we'll immediately turn and head straight for One World Trade Center in New York. We're going to replicate 9/11. Originally, if you hadn't intervened, we would have parachuted out early, but now, let's all die together. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. This utterly depraved behavior terrified all the passengers in the cabin, who were now in tears. The scene instantly spiraled out of control, and some people had already started writing their wills. Unable to stand their incessant noise, Leni raised her gun and fired 2 shots at a corpse on the ground. Everyone, be quiet. There are still enemies in first class. Get down if you don't want to die. Chapter 12 Mr. Bandit, let's make a deal. A slightly crazy idea suddenly flashed into her mind and wouldn't leave. Leni leaned closer to Callison and the others, explaining her plan. We'll do this, then this, then this. Are you sure? No problem. Leni nodded firmly, her confident face reassuring Callison. Then go for it. Hearing this, Leni turned and went straight to the man who had been laughing maniacally, grabbing his collar and saying, Listen to me, none of us will die today, not a single one. But you guys, you'll be facing the law. Without waiting for his reaction, she threw him aside and headed for the economy class lavatory. The man was stunned by Leni's aggressive demeanor, then recovered and burst into maniacal laughter again. Ha ha ha. You guys? Ha 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 ha. Bart, unable to stand it any longer, slapped him across the face, then punched him hard, knocking him unconscious, and spat on him. Damn trash. In the restroom, Leni retrieved 2 boxes from thin air, along with several flashbang grenades and 2 body armor vests, before returning to the group. Natasha, you'll be in charge of sniping and fire support, guarding the central aisle. Clint and Bart, you two put on your vests and come with me to first class. Once I'm inside, you keep an eye on the passengers and any hidden enemies. Understood. The 3 took the equipment, preparing to storm first class. The 2 boxes contained 2 Victor submachine guns equipped with various tactical devices, and a modified HK-416 that could be used as a marksman rifle. As top-tier S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives, they were naturally adept at these weapons. After checking the ammunition and confirming it was in good condition, the 4 prepared to storm in. You ask what weapon Leni uses? She uses nothing. Because she will be the strongest shield for the group behind her. Boss, nothing's happening over there, is that it? Shut up. On the other side, in a corner of first class, a thug who looked like a low-level leader yelled at his henchman. The cold sweat was already beading on his forehead. You. Go grab a hostage. Tie the bomb to him. We'll all die together. But weren't we supposed to crash into the building? Crash my ass. We're lucky to be alive. Go now. He practically shouted, and the group of passengers huddled together on the other side of first class turned pale with fright. They retreated in panic, afraid of becoming victims of the human bombs. The henchman didn't dare delay. He got up, grabbed a bag, and inside were pieces of plastic explosives. He pointed the gun at a flight attendant, pulled her over, and, ignoring her cries and pleas, quickly tied her up. No. No. Please. I'll do anything. Just please let me go. The flight attendant's makeup was ruined by tears, and she sobbed uncontrollably. But the young man wasn't having any of it and slapped her hard across the face. Fuck. Behave yourself, or I'll shit you right now. What? The flight attendant could only helplessly submit to his actions. Clang. Bang. 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 Just then, something flew in from the business class direction, bounced twice on the floor, and then a series of explosions echoed throughout the cabin. The flashing lights covered the entire first-class cabin, leaving everyone dizzy, with ringing ears, and disoriented. The moment the last of the 9 flashes subsided, Leni, wearing sunglasses, immediately raised her left hand, palm facing forward, and held a P-30L pistol in her right hand, ready to fire. After Bart pushed the partition open completely, he stepped into the first-class cabin first. Clint, armed with a Victor submachine gun, followed Leni in, 1 on each side. The moment they entered, the 3 noticed the group of passengers on one side and the 2 thugs on the other. Clint, positioned ahead, fired a short burst without hesitation, quickly killing the leader in the corner. The man, still dazed, instinctively cowered in the corner, covering his ears and closing his eyes, a final act he could only manage. Bart, positioned behind, fired 3 single shots, hitting the henchman who had been strapping a bomb to a flight attendant. 2 shots to the chest and 1 to the head, a typical Mozambican shot, a double tap followed by a headshot. The entire CQB attack was executed flawlessly in a short time. The passengers in the cabin hadn't even recovered from the shock of the 9-shot barrage before the crisis in first class was over. Leni quickly searched every corner, confirming there were no more enemies besides the passengers, before turning her attention to the crowd. Clint and his companion, after examining the bodies of the 2 bandits, also approached Leni with their guns raised, whispering, "One left." Leni nodded silently, then pulled up the flight attendant who was terrified and had lost control of her bladder, loudly asking, "How many got into the cabin?" Ugh. The flight attendant was clearly disoriented, in other words, she was terrified. Already terrified by the bomb strapped to her, this near-instantaneous 9-shot barrage was enough to make her pass out. Leni reluctantly put her down and temporarily settled her in a first-class compartment. She walked over to the crowd and casually pulled over another beautiful flight attendant, asking, "How many are left inside?" The flight attendant hesitated, instinctively shrinking back, and answered in a trembling voice, 11. The cockpit isn't very big, one can only go in at a time. She hesitated for a while without getting anything out. Tisk. Leni clicked her tongue in disdain, and asked again, "Can the cabin door be opened from the outside?" "Yes, but it requires a password." "What's the password?" Leni glanced back at the cabin door. Sure enough, there was a combination lock. I don't know," the flight attendant's eyes darted away. "You don't know?" Leni glared at her again. "She just transferred here recently. I'm the purser, I know the password." At this moment, another female flight attendant stepped forward from the crowd. She looked slightly older, presumably the purser. Leni nodded, made way for her, and told the previous flight attendant to step aside and attend to the person in the first-class compartment. The flight attendant trembled and backed away, a shadow of unease flashing in her eyes. Since the 9/11 attacks, the cockpit doors on airplanes had been designed to be opened from the outside. However, to prevent unauthorized entry, a password was still required. After Clinton Barton had settled the other passengers into their respective compartments furthest from the cockpit, Leni tried to open the door using the password the purser had secretly given her. "Wait. Listen up, you outside. If you dare open the door, I'll shoot the pilot in the head. We might as well crash together." A man's voice suddenly blared from the overhead speaker. Leni had to stop what she was doing and turn to the purser, asking, "Can I communicate with them from inside?" The purser nodded. "Yes, over here." She then picked up the intercom. Leni took the document, pulled an FBI badge from her pocket, pointed it at the camera, and said, "Mr. Thief, can we talk? If the pilot dies, none of us will be happy. How about this? I have a parachute. You open the door, and I promise we won't harm you and we'll let you leave." "Who do you think you are? What's there to talk about? If I die, so many people will die with me, it's worth it." The thug inside was hysterical. "Please calm down, sir. I'm the head of the FBI. You've lost all your manpower in this operation, and I've even captured several alive. Therefore, you're dispensable to me. Your death would just add another number to my resume. And I wouldn't lose anything if you lived. After all, killing 10 or 11 makes little difference. But the captain's safety is extremely important to me and my people. If this plane lands safely, I'll be promoted, and I'll have more power to quell this. And you, sir, you'll become one of the victims after this plane lands. After all, you were a first-class passenger, weren't you?" "What do you mean?" The hijacker inside didn't quite understand the hidden meaning in Leni's words. Hearing this, Leni rolled her eyes, thinking, how could someone so stupid dare to hijack a plane? "Let's put it this way, Mr. Bandit, let's make a deal." Seeing no reply, likely distracted by the discussion of benefits and drawbacks, Leni pressed her advantage. "Right now, everyone on this plane who has seen you and knows who you are is dead. Oh no, there are still 3, but I think I still have the power to keep them silent. Therefore, you can still be a first-class passenger, and the person who hijacked the cockpit has been killed by my men. Do you understand, sir?" The person inside remained silent. Leni inwardly cursed this guy as a complete idiot. Just as Leni was about to give up and prepare for a direct assault, she heard the person inside suddenly speak. "Why should I believe you?" Chapter 13 S.H.I.E.L.D, No Negotiations. Why should I believe you? Leni's heart eased at his words. He'd finally taken the bait. "I'm Leni Schuyler, a senior FBI agent. This is my identification." Leni held her FBI badge higher, closer to the camera, so the other party could see it more clearly. Then, while speaking, she gestured to the purser beside her, who was listening in a daze. "You can believe me. After all, if you report me later, I won't get any reward, I might even go to court. So we're in this together now. If you kill the pilot, we both die. But if you live, my men and I will pretend we don't know you exist. And you can take all the cash you got. You get rich, I get promoted." The thugs inside fell silent, or rather, they were tempted. Although the people on the plane weren't carrying much cash, this was first class. Anyone who could afford a first-class ticket was wealthy and powerful. Just look at the cash they just confiscated, hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. That kind of money was more than a thug could earn in a lifetime. And as Leni said, apart from the flight attendants and a few first-class passengers, only his accomplices knew who he was. They had all worn masks from the start of the operation, so even the 2 pilots beside him didn't know what he looked like. Just then, the cockpit door was suddenly pulled open. A figure leaped forward, a gun pointed directly at the man's forehead. "Too bad, you don't have a chance anymore, Mr. Hijacker. Actually, while the hijacker was weighing his options, Leni, using her FBI badge as a cover, had already had the purser quietly enter the code to unlock the door. Then, Leni had Clint, who had quietly appeared nearby, prepare to open the door. Finally, she had the purser take the badge and block the hijacker's view. After a 3, 2, 1 countdown, Leni and Clint acted simultaneously. One yanked open the door, the other slipped inside. Before the hesitant hijacker inside could make a decision, the muzzle of her P-30L was already pressed against his head. If it weren't for the fact that this was the cockpit, filled with sophisticated equipment, Leni would have shot him dead on the spot. Idiot, wasting my time. You, the hijacker was horrified. After disarming and subduing the fool, she moved him to the 3 previously captured men. Leni clapped her hands, brushing off imaginary dust. Done. Captain, let's head back to Washington. Yes, Miss Schuyler. The captain nodded gratefully and began reporting to the nearby New York airport, requesting permission to turn back to Washington. He also reported to the ground that the hijackers had been apprehended by FBI agents. Leni didn't offer much explanation. Schuyler it was, as long as the Schuyler next door didn't accuse her of plagiarism. Soon after, the captain and flight attendant announced over the intercom that the hijackers had been dealt with, and all the passengers breathed a sigh of relief. Then, someone started clapping, and the joy of surviving a close call spread like wildfire. Everyone clapped generously. Cheers, hugs, kisses, their faces beamed with happiness at having escaped such a close call. Miss Leni, may I have your autograph? At that moment, a beautiful flight attendant who had been tending to the terrified flight attendant approached, holding a pen. Of course. Leni smiled warmly, indicating where she wanted to sign. On your collar? No problem. Being a woman herself, Leni showed no embarrassment. She leaned close and whispered in her ear. Seemingly unconcerned, put the dagger in your pocket away and turn yourself in. I don't want to kill women. Ignoring the flight attendant's surprised look, Leni signed Leni Schuyler on her collar. Meeting the flight attendant's complicated gaze, she handed the pen back and moved on to signing autographs for the next beautiful flight attendant. The flight attendant, noticing something amiss, came over and gently patted her shoulder. Fly this leg well. Then, she took her hand and joined the cheering. No longer paying attention to the other flight attendant, who was being looked after by the rapid response team. As a token of gratitude, the flight attendant upgraded Leni and her group to first class. However, because someone still needed to guard the bodies and the prisoners, the others didn't come over. Well done, looks like I really need to reassess you, Carlson said with a smile. No wonder Rumlow gave you such a high evaluation. Leni lay exhausted in her first-class compartment. After continuous high-intensity operations, all she wanted now was a good rest. Stop teasing me. You should go back and urge the department. I never want to be hijacked on a plane again. It's cramped, and full of civilians. As a gunner, I have no room to maneuver. Carlson glanced at Natasha, who also looked helpless, and shook his head. I'll try. Just then, Clint returned with news. This group was the same people the military mole had leaked information to. They planned 2 attacks. One group bribed airport officials to board the plane with weapons, intending to replicate the 9/11 attacks. The other group attacked the military's sample transport team. However, this group didn't know the military's samples were fake. They were only acting on the mole's orders to crash the plane and kill the agents. They didn't know Leni and the others' identities, nor did they know the location of S.H.I.E.L.D. Otherwise, the guy in the cockpit wouldn't have been so foolish as to believe Leni. These idiots, they've been sold out and don't even know it, Leni cursed. In short, it's basically confirmed that Colonel Lawrence is the mole, but there's no concrete evidence yet. They didn't have direct contact. I've already reported the information about the middleman to the department. As for how to handle it afterward, that's up to the military and us. Let the director decide. Carlson gave his final summary, and the hijacking incident was considered closed. After the plane landed, Carlson and his team handed the hijackers over to the actual FBI agents. After a brief interrogation, they asked the FBI director to contact S.H.I.E.L.D. It was already evening when they returned to the department. Leni, Natasha, Clint, and others went to the dining area for dinner. During the meal, Natasha asked about the alchemical potion. After all, she had personally witnessed Leni disappear into economy class and then reappear in full view of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Leni finished her cheeseburger, then gulped down a glass of cola before comfortably leaning back in her chair. Divine blessing, just like its name suggests. After drinking it, the body enters an invisible state for 30 seconds, and there are no side effects. And what? Callison asked doubtfully. And it's very rare. Compared to this stuff, Golden Goat's milk and Ramey's 8 are at best mass-produced goods. Leni didn't mention the most overpowered and unsolvable ability of this alchemical potion, because it was simply too unbelievable. How much? Stop. I won't sell it for any price. I don't even have enough for myself. Seeing Leni's serious attitude, Callison and Natasha exchanged a glance and sighed helplessly. Alright, is there anything else? Leni stared into Callison's eyes for a while before answering, yes, and quite a lot. As for the price, it's negotiable. She then took out a magnificent diamond-shaped bottle from her pocket, filled with a crystalline orange-red liquid. Its value was obvious just from the bottle itself. Top-tier strength potion, as the name suggests. It can significantly boost the user's strength for a short period of time. The price is $300,000 a bottle. Callison and the others took turns picking it up, glancing at it, and then putting it back. Good stuff. Do you have any more? Leni frowned, cursing these guys for their insatiable greed. Don't go too far, okay? This is my personal stash, something I always needed. $300,000 isn't expensive, Natasha quickly explained. Callison means we want this. But not everyone can afford something this good. He's asking if we have any cheaper ones. Leni blinked, looked at Natasha, then at Callison and Clint, and finally understood what they meant. Hey, I thought you didn't want it? Oh, I see. No problem. She reached back into her coat, pretending to take something out. There weren't many people in the dining area at this time, and the group was sitting in a corner. So there was no need to worry about Leni being noticed. At most, people would just be curious about the pretty bottle on the table. Vitality elixir slightly increases strength for half an hour, but the effect is much weaker. At best, it's just a very potent adrenaline. I'll give you 10,000, and I'll give you as much as you want. Agility crystal slightly increases reaction speed and agility for 3 minutes. These two can be used together, with no side effects. Also 10,000 each. Discounts available for bulk orders, fair and square. Chapter 14, Arsenal of Class Skills, is now unlocked. Director, this is my comprehensive assessment of Leni Testarossa Stark. My opinion is that she fits your Avengers plan perfectly. Early the next morning, Callison appeared in Nick Fury's office and submitted an assessment report. As Callison had said the day before, he was indeed responsible for evaluating Leni, but his real purpose was to complete the director's Avengers plan. The plan aimed to assemble a special team of individuals to avenge the enemy in the event of an irreversible invasion or risk to Earth. Currently, the project lacked a specific candidate. Candidates included Clint Barton, Hawkeye, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Leni Testarossa Stark, whom Callison had just submitted. Nick Fury took the report, glanced at it, and carefully read Callison's evaluation of Leni. You think her combat abilities surpass Agent Barton's? Yes, although she's still young, her abilities are extremely strong. It's just that she hasn't been with S.H.I.E.L.D for very long, and she's a little inexperienced in handling some emergencies. Nick Fury nodded, sharing the same opinion. So you recommended she be a special advisor first? That's right. Her current abilities are quite good, but she's not yet ready to lead a team. However, her alchemical abilities can bring huge benefits to S.H.I.E.L.D. Therefore, I think she's not suitable to be the first Avenger right now, but rather a consultant within the team. Good. She's still too green. Let's do as you say. Let her continue as a special advisor for now. Nick Fury was very satisfied with his old partner, who could save him a lot of trouble. And she gave him far more face than Maria Hill did as director. By the way, your report said that her alchemical potions haven't been fully demonstrated yet? Hearing this, Callison took out a agility crystal from his pocket and handed it to him. This is an alchemical tool that Leni showed me during our private chat yesterday. It can temporarily enhance a person's reaction time and agility. I've already had Clint test it, and the results are quite good, plus it's inexpensive. I think this should be made available to all combat agents of level 5 and above. Oh? Is that so? Callison examined the crystal clear, emerald green alchemical tool. But that's not enough to justify your assessment, is it? Yes, in fact, there were some things I didn't include in yesterday's mission report, and those were related to Leni's alchemical potion. Seeing Nick Fury's curious gaze return, Coulson continued. In the report, after dealing with the hijackers in business class, Renee used the magical invisibility potion to go to economy class and take care of the 3 hijackers alone. Although we didn't hide this in the report, in the cabin surveillance video provided by the FBI, I discovered another ability related to the divine protection potion she mentioned. Nick Fury became interested. He had indeed seen yesterday's mission report and wasn't surprised that Renee could produce an alchemical potion that could make her invisible. But this so-called divine protection, if it only made her transparent to achieve invisibility, seemed a bit misleading. Go on. After our technicians compared and sampled the samples, we can confirm that Renee was actually attacked after going to economy class alone. Although the hijackers only had time to fire 1 shot, according to the ballistic analysis afterward, the bullet should have penetrated Renee's body solidly. But she came back completely unharmed? Not even her clothes were torn? Nick Fury's eyes widened. That made sense. Judging from the alchemical tools that Leni has used in the past, the names of the potions directly indicate their effects. But using divine blessing for an invisibility potion is really a bit far-fetched. In this light, divine blessing truly seems like a blessing bestowed by the gods. Encrypt this information and store it at a security level of 8. I don't want too many people to know about this. Yes. I'll go now. Coulson turned and left the office. Another Stark, what a magical surname. Howard Stark, Tony Stark, and now there's the magical Leni Stark. Newbie quest 2 completed, class skill weapon arsenal unlocked, main quest startled, please accept as soon as possible. Leni, who was practicing close combat with Natasha in the training ground, suddenly saw these 2 sentences, startling her so much that she quickly dodged Natasha's sidekick. Wait a minute. I'm going to the restroom, I'll be right back, right away. After saying that, she immediately left the stunned Natasha behind and rushed to the restroom. Finding an empty cubicle, Leni immediately opened the system page. The system hadn't made a sound for over a week, and Leni had almost forgotten about it. Character, Leni Testarossa Stark. Race, Celestial. Class, Gunner. Subclass, Alchemist. Character template, Rainbow Rain. Level, LV. 5 skills, Heavy Weapon Mastery, M137 Gatling Gun, Heavy Weapon Pull, Silver Bullet, Alchemy, Equipment, None Quest, Main Quest, Blooming Celestial Roses, Part 1, Quest Objective, Obtain the complete Gunner class inheritance and unlock the Gunner's complete arsenal. Quest Reward, Superpower Supply Pack. After reading all the system content, Leni couldn't help but feel a little strange. This seemingly incredibly difficult beginner quest is actually completed? I can understand Coulson trusting me, but why does that old bastard with the bald head trust me? If she couldn't figure it out, she wouldn't think about it anymore. The most important thing now was to quickly test out the class skill arsenal. Finally, she could be a gunner in a legitimate way. Leni didn't dwell on the main quest, the system didn't limit completion time anyway, so she could worry about it later. The most urgent thing was to figure out what this professional skill weapon vault was all about. Returning to the training ground, she pulled up a bewildered Natasha and invited her to the shooting range. After all, the Gatling gun was a large weapon, and it was better to go to a dedicated training area. What are you doing? I'll show you something good. Picking up a pair of noise-canceling headphones hanging nearby, Leni gave Natasha a thumbs up, then probed her consciousness into the professional skill weapon vault. In the memories of a female gunner, this skill weapon vault was used similarly to her personal vault. The weapons and equipment inside were shrouded in a strange, dark substance, with only one exception, an M137 Gatling gun. In reality, this thing was simply an M134 Gatling gun, firing 7.6251mm ammunition. It also has a resounding name, minigun, with a theoretical rate of fire of 6,000 rounds per minute. This M137 is a super improved version produced by the system. Besides the increased rate of fire and lethality, the entire gun body is more robust, and the barrel is more durable. Although she was envious of the other unlocked black weapons displayed on the weapon rack, just by looking at their appearance, Leni could roughly match them to the female gunner's skills. No, she couldn't take it anymore, her saliva was about to spill. Withdrawing her consciousness and awakening the fighting spirit of the female gunner, Leni's aura instantly spread out. This made the impatient Natasha blink curiously. Combat protocol activated, weapon restrictions lifted. Unlike retrieving items from the void warehouse, Leni no longer needed to reach into the void. Instead, as if by spatial teleportation, a pale blue light flashed, and an incredibly imposing rotary heavy machine gun appeared in Leni's hand. A long, narrow ammunition belt was connected to the machine gun at one end, and the other end was seemingly suspended in midair. Lowering her center of gravity slightly, Leni pressed the fire button with her right hand. After a brief warm-up, a deafening roar, like that of death, echoed throughout the firing range. A belt of 4 bullets followed by a tracer round instantly formed a continuous line, tearing the paper target to shreds in the blink of an eye. The volley of bullets sent dust billowing from the protective embankment behind the target, and orange-yellow spent casings quickly piled up at Leni's feet, soon forming a small mountain. Gradually adapting to the violent recoil, Leni even began to try moving slowly. In the game, the Gatling gun skill prevents movement after activation and has a very long recovery time, so players generally don't invest skill points in it. Although Leni knew from the memories of the female gunner that this behemoth could actually be fired while moving, only by experiencing it firsthand could she truly feel the firepower and thrill of this bullet storm. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Only when the barrel began to glow slightly red did Leni release the button, panting heavily. Haha, I'll never laugh like that again, it's so tiring. The Gatling gun in her hand flashed with a pale blue light again, and was retrieved into the armory by the system. Along with it disappeared a pile of spent shell casings. How did you do that? How about that, amazing, right? Leni's face was practically begging for praise. Once out of combat mode, she was back to that slightly goofy girl. Natasha looked at the girl now, and then at the crazy woman wielding the heavy machine gun just moments before. She couldn't reconcile the two images. Amazing, but... Oh, it's very simple. Leni interrupted Natasha, then said with a very simple expression, first, you need to analyze the three-dimensional spatial data around you, then construct a micro-wormhole transport channel, blah blah blah. She rattled off a whole bunch of fantastical theories, regardless of whether Natasha understood. As a top S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, it was impossible for Natasha to be completely ignorant of physics. But listening to Leni's explanation, the more she listened, the more she felt the girl was trying to fool her. Seeing that she couldn't be fooled, Leni simply gave up. Oh, you wouldn't understand even if I told you. Come on, let's go shopping. Unable to persuade her, Natasha had no choice but to temporarily give up asking questions. Anyway, there would be plenty of opportunities later, she would let her off the hook for today. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Should I Call You Wade Wilson, or? Following the hijacking incident, Leni spent another 3 months at S.H.I.E.L.D. During this time, she frequently accompanied Coulson, Clint, and Natasha on missions, quickly mastering the skills and abilities of a field agent. Her demeanor was also transforming into that of a mature and reliable professional woman, though reaching the level of a sophisticated, mature woman would still take a long time. Her level also increased rapidly. After nearly 10 field missions in 3 months, Leni had reached level 11. Although the main storyline remained unchanged, the biggest benefit of the frequent missions was the significant improvement in her physical abilities. However, reaching level 10 did not unlock any new skills or weapons. The unlocked class skills were all geared towards the Ranger Archer, Spinning Kick, Barbecue, Spiked Shot, and Floating Shovel. These 4 skills might seem useless to casual gamers, only useful in PvP. But for someone like Leni, whose close combat skills were weak or almost non-existent, with these 4 items combined with heavy weapon pull-out, they at least provide some close combat resistance. At least Clint won't call them sitting ducks anymore. Leni, the chief wants to see you. Okay, thank you. Wiping the sweat from her face, Leni thanked him. She thought to herself, I just finished a mission, why is that guy Nick Fury looking for me again? She went back to her lounge, took a quick shower, and realized that going to see her superior right after training would be beneath her ladylike image. Judging from the colleague who delivered the message, it didn't seem to be in a hurry. A short while later, Leni appeared in the chief's office. Chief, you wanted to see me? Yes, have a seat. Nick put down the documents he was holding and handed them to Leni. I've called you here today to ask you to go to Afghanistan. There are reports that someone is supplying weapons to terrorists there, and the supplier is Stark Industries. I've already sent people to investigate Stark. I need you to find more concrete evidence on the ground, not just photos. If you can bring someone back, that would be even better, understand? Leni's heart skipped a beat, and she carefully reviewed the documents. Sure enough, a terrorist organization called the Ten Rings had rapidly risen in the region, plundering dozens of cities in just 2 months. Photos taken by war correspondents showed that the weapons they used appeared to be from Stark Industries. Was this Tony Stark's doing? Probably not. That guy is either lying on a woman's belly or tinkering with weapons in his basement. Then it was the company shareholders? Who's in charge now? Leni knew this was probably before the main plot had even begun. Abadiastan, I also think it was him, but it's their family matter, it's none of our business. Okay, I understand. When do I leave? As soon as possible. The sooner this matter is investigated, the better. Okay, I'll go back and pack, I'll leave tomorrow. The next morning, Leni went to the equipment department and applied for a batch of field equipment. Then she packed it all into the warehouse, and then went to a supermarket to buy some water and food. Anyway, as long as it makes her life better in the desert, it doesn't matter how much she brings. After packing, Leni drove a S.H.I.E.L.D. off-road vehicle, boarded a S.H.I.E.L.D. transport plane, and headed to Afghanistan. By the time she arrived at her destination, it was already dark. She found a local small hotel and made do for the night. The next day, as soon as it was light, after breakfast, Leni immediately took out the off-road vehicle from her spatial storage and set off to search for the Ten Commandments gang. The journey was uneventful, but as she drove, Leni started to get bored. Imagine an endless expanse of Gobi Desert, nothing but rocks and sand, not a soul in sight. Anyone would go crazy after a while. Leni was already getting impatient after an hour. She really shouldn't have taken this damned mission, or she should have brought Natasha or May along. At least the journey wouldn't be this boring. Just then, a muffled thud came from the back seat. Startled, Leni slammed on the brakes and quickly turned to pull out a Glock 18C pistol, ready to empty the magazine. Hey! Don't shoot. Beautiful agent, I'm a law-abiding citizen. Hearing this voice, Leni felt a strange sense of familiarity, but she didn't seem to recognize its owner. Don't be impulsive, Lady Wonder from heaven. The person slowly lowered the muzzle of Leni's gun, signaling her not to act rashly. The increasingly familiar voice made Leni turn to take a closer look at the person in the back seat. She saw that the person was wearing a red and black tight-fitting uniform, carrying 2 long swords, and 2 Desert Eagle pistols were holstered at their waist. Deadpool? That's me. Seeing that Renee recognized him, the red and black Deadpool straightened his posture. He introduced himself in what he considered to be a very mature and charming voice. It's a pleasure to meet you, beautiful lady. May I have dinner with you? Renee pointed the gun at his head again. No. 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 Deadpool hurriedly reached out to lower the gun again. Although he wouldn't die from the gunshot, it would hurt. Where did you come from? How did you end up in my car? Oh, to be precise, I came from Fox. I'll be going back to Disney later. Renee was a little confused by this guy's train of thought. After a moment of thought, she realized that he was talking about the copyright of his character. After all, it wasn't surprising that Deadpool could break the fourth wall. I asked you where you came from. Never mind, what do you want? It was obvious that this guy had come from the time machine in the movie. It's so convenient talking to you. As he spoke, he was about to take off his mask. I came to find you because a guy named Ancient One told me you're from another world and have the medicine to cure my cancer. Stop. I don't want to see your avocado face. Renee raised her gun again. Damn it. Can't you put the gun down? You make me feel very unsafe. Shut up, you're the one who makes me feel most unsafe here. The two remained silent for a while, until Renee's hand finally got tired of holding the gun. She put it back in storage, started the car, and drove off. Seeing that the other party was finally not hostile, Deadpool relaxed and comfortably leaned back in his seat. Ancient One told you I have a way to help you? Renee glanced at this unserious guy through the rearview mirror. That's right, she's noticed you, but she didn't let me say anything to you. Deadpool put on a nonchalant air, but actually, his eyes behind the mask were observing Renee's expression. Really? That's good. An awkward silence fell again. Although Deadpool is a social butterfly, The information he gained from breaking the fourth wall revealed that the celestial being in front of him actually knew him very well. This made him momentarily at a loss for words. Furthermore, since he needed a favor, he dared not be presumptuous and had to temporarily set aside his social butterfly tendencies. Should I call you Wade Wilson or Ryan Reynolds? I am who I am. Although Ryan's face is indeed very handsome, I like it too. Then I'll call you Little Deadpool. Whatever. A silence fell between them, and Renee didn't know what to say either, so the atmosphere became tense again. Finally, the social butterfly Mr. Deadpool couldn't hold back any longer. He was going to die of embarrassment if he didn't speak. Ugh. What a nuisance. I came here to ask you if you can cure my cancer. Renee glanced back at him. The more she looked at him, the less he resembled Deadpool. No. Fuck. I knew it. That old hag was just lying to me. With that, Deadpool disappeared again. The sudden disappearance startled Leni again, causing her to slam on the brakes and bring the SUV to a halt. He just comes and goes like that. What does you take me for? She glanced around, confirming he was gone, and felt a surge of relief. Just as she was about to start the car again, a muffled thud came from the passenger seat. Beautiful celestial lady, did you miss me? Damn it. Leni's forward veins bulged into shape. She reached into the storage compartment and pulled out a golden hand cannon gleaming with a pale blue light, shoving it directly at Deadpool's head. If I don't unleash my power, you think I'm Hello Kitty. Boom. This time, Leni didn't hold back, giving him no chance, and pulled the trigger. The powerful, high-temperature energy instantly filled the entire passenger compartment. Cough. Cough. When the smoke cleared, Deadpool's head was blackened, half of his hood scorched away by the heat, revealing Wade's avocado-shaped head. Cough. You're really violent, I like it. He glanced disdainfully at Deadpool's head, thankful he hadn't eaten much that morning, or he'd definitely throw up. What kind of expression is that? Deadpool reacted fiercely. You're going to hurt me like that, you know that. Alright. Leni stopped looking at him, put away her hand cannon, and then took out a shining rainbow from her void storage and tossed it to him. Try this first. If this doesn't work, then I doubt even alchemical potions will solve your problem, unless you give up your superpowers. Then I have a way I can try. Wade looked at the square crystal radiating pink light in his hand, crushed it without hesitation, and then felt a strong warm current spread throughout his body. Miraculously, as the pink light from the crystal covered his entire body, the area on his head that had been injured and rapidly healing miraculously returned to normal. His skin was no longer wrinkled, and the wounds on his body disappeared rapidly. It revealed the handsome face that originally belonged to Ryan Reynolds. Chapter 16. Dare to come near, and I'll smash your crotch to pieces. How is it? I can feel it working. Wade Wilson was extremely excited. After the warm glow of the alchemical artifact enveloped him, he could clearly feel this magical substance repairing his body. But as the glow faded, the skin on Deadpool's head turned into an avocado again. Renee didn't answer, but sighed and turned to continue driving. She didn't want to watch any more, afraid she would really throw up. Understanding Renee's meaning, Wade slowly lowered his excited hands, his voice somewhat lonely and frustrated. I knew it. It's still working, but to completely cure your illness, I might really have to use my second plan. Give up your superpowers? Yes, you actually know your situation better than anyone else. I suppose you've already experienced losing your superpowers by the time you got here. Your super regenerative abilities suppressed the spread of cancer cells, but at the same time, they made you look like this. You're right, but I can't give up this damn thing yet. Mr. Deadpool helplessly pounded his thigh. Well, that's fine too. I'm going to be filming Deadpool 3 with Wolverine. Want to have a cameo? Deadpool 3? After thinking for a moment, Leni didn't refuse. We'll see. I'll save the stuff for you. Haha. Great. I've been waiting for you to say that. Wade suddenly got excited. All that playing the deep, heartbroken guy had finally paid off. A little confused by his sudden shifts in mood, Leni took a while to realize he was wasting her emotions. She immediately pulled out her hand cannon again and shoved it in his face. Are you kidding me? I'm done. Wade, with half his face covered, quickly apologized and gently moved the cannon away. Drive safely. Reckless driving will bring tears to your eyes. Not bothering to figure out how this guy knew that movie line, Leni snorted and put her weapon away to drive properly. Looking around, Deadpool asked, Are you going to Afghanistan? To find that rich kid? No, it's not time yet. I'm just going to investigate the 10 Commandments. Oh? Really? Perfect. I've got nothing else to do. Come with me. Being with such a beautiful woman from another world, just thinking about it is exciting. Or if you dare come near me, I'll smash your thing down there. Please don't do that. With Deadpool's banter, the journey wasn't so boring. The two resupplied themselves whenever they encountered a village or town, then slowly inquired about the 10 Commandments. That night, instead of staying in the previous town, they set up camp in a sheltered mountain hollow, using the tent Renee had brought. You only have one tent? Well, I'll reluctantly sleep with you. He Renee ignored him, tossing a bundle over her shoulder containing a spare tent. Huh? You actually brought 2 tents? Wade was dumbfounded. Did having a warehouse mean he could be so carefree? I usually carry all the outdoor gear for a small team. Is it strange to bring an extra tent? Tisk, you'll never get married if you keep this up. Seeing that his chance to get close to her was gone, Wade had no choice but to obediently set up camp. The two of them had a simple barbecue dinner in the wild using the fresh steaks that Leni had taken from the warehouse, and then chatted around the campfire. By the way, you also have the surname Stark. Are you that Stark? Leni knew who Wade was asking about. In fact, everyone who got to know her asked this question. After all, the two of them were so similar. Both were child prodigies, both graduated from MIT, both had the surname Stark, and even. A lot of people have asked me this question, but I really have nothing to do with him. My parents are ordinary people, and I prefer to be called Leni, or Leni Testarossa, rather than Miss Stark or Ms. Stark. When I was in school, my classmates and teachers suspected that I was that guy's sister, or Mr. Howard's illegitimate daughter. After all, he was supposedly a playboy. Like father, like son, huh? Let me tell you, I don't envy him or like him at all. Hey, you know what? I wrote to Stark asking to join the Avengers, and guess what he said in his reply? He actually told me not to even think about it. My God, are these guys crazy? A super popular superhero like me, joining this super boy band would be such a super awesome thing. And he actually rejected me. Even now, thinking about it still makes my heart ache. As he spoke, Deadpool made a heartbroken gesture, making Leni almost throw up the steak she had just eaten. Deadpool kept talking while tearing off slices of orange peel, getting his hands covered in juice. Then, as if nothing had happened, he casually pulled a few tissues from the tissue box to wipe his hands, deliberately crumpling them up and tossing them at his feet. Leni's eyes twitched. She swore she would never touch the tissue box again, never. So, you're super rich too, right? Deadpool looked Leni up and down. Who has a little tent these past few days? If I tied you up, how much would you pay me? You? This sentence instantly dealt a critical blow to Deadpool, its impact no less than, are you even up to it, you little rascal? Could Wade tolerate this? He was about to draw his sword and challenge Leni to a duel. Leni didn't even look at him. The knives are not bad, but these 2 knives are the only valuable things you have left, right? In a couple of years, the rifling on your Desert Eagle will probably be worn away. Shit. You're insulting my character. Come on, what character do you have left? Just wait, I'll give you something good after this mission, so you won't work for me for nothing. Hearing about the gift, Deadpool immediately dropped his aggressive demeanor and hurriedly came closer. What good thing is it? PFFT. Leni laughed at his appearance. I still prefer your arrogant self from earlier. Ahem. Wade immediately straightened his attitude and sheathed his knives. Helping ladies in need is a gentleman's duty, no need for gifts. Then I won't give you anything. No way, taking money to do a job isn't shameful, not shameful at all. Seeing his expression, Leni helplessly took out a pistol from her space. Its fiery red appearance and shape were very similar to the Desert Eagle on Deadpool's waist. Wade's eyes nearly popped out of his head. This thing was totally his type. Lend me the magazine. Leni removed the magazine from the gun. It was empty. It's called the Blazing Heckler. As the name suggests, its bullets have a burning effect. Simply put, it's a built-in incendiary round, so be careful not to shoot oil drums carelessly, it really can explode. After checking the ammunition, she reloaded the magazine. This thing looked like a fiery red Desert Eagle, and it was .50 caliber. Using his AE rounds was no problem. He fired a shot at a clump of dry weeds not far away. Bang! Sparks flew, instantly igniting the dry grass and setting it ablaze. Shit. Deadpool's eyes nearly popped out of his head. A magical weapon? No, This is celestial technology, it's just because of the special materials. Leni had only tested it once, she didn't have any .50 AE rounds on her. Seeing that Deadpool didn't seem to have any spare ammo, she returned the magazine to him and put the gun away. Hey. No, don't take it. Isn't this worse than killing me? I'll give it to you after the mission, Leni said, getting up to go back to her tent to rest. Ugh. This is too much? It's like having a naked girl next door, making me anxious and helpless. Ha ha ha. If you dare come to my tent in the middle of the night, I'll make sure you're not anxious in a minute. And so, the two of them coughed and joked in the desert as they searched for the 10 Commandments gang. After chasing for 4 whole days, they finally spotted a 10 Commandments gang convoy preparing to raid a village at noon on the 5th day. Tisk finally caught up with these guys. No wonder it was so hard to find them, they even have military trucks? Yeah, right. It's so hot here, I feel like I'm going to stink if I don't shower for a day. Little Deadpool pretended to sniff around. Stop sniffing, let's go up the mountain. Leni looked at the village not far away through her binoculars, then at the small hill beside her. This distance was perfect for sniping. Their weapons shouldn't be able to reach this point, let's go up. They quickly stored the SUV in the warehouse and headed straight for the mountain top. What a convenient ability, can it carry anything? Deadpool had been talking non-stop the whole way, and at first, Leni thought it was nice to have him around to keep things from getting boring. But now she just found him annoying. Life forms and anything too big are out of the question. The car is the limit. Weapons are fine as long as I can carry them, and there's no limit to the quantity of gadgets and materials. Leni carried a Cheetah M200 on her back, while Deadpool used a Precision International L115A3. Both of them used bolt-action sniper rifles, and their power and accuracy were top-notch. However, the only thing they lacked was an observer, but this was often the most important helper, and neither of them intended to be one. Leni pulled a futuristic-looking monocular telescope from thin air. This was a multifunctional telescope specially developed by S.H.I.E.L.D for snipers, capable of ranging, measuring wind speed, and measuring humidity. The shooter only needs to input the data displayed on the binoculars into the accompanying sniper computer. The system can automatically calculate the appropriate sniping data, with an error of no more than 10 centimeters. However, this doesn't mean it's completely reliable. Leni and Wade still felt it was safer to fire a test shot first, especially since they were well over 2,000 meters from the target. Fortunately, both of their weapons were equipped with dedicated suppressors, so at this distance, the enemy wouldn't be able to hear a single gunshot. Sorry, the scheduled update wasn't set up, I'll repost it soon. Chapter 17 I won't move. Moving will mean death. Half an hour ago, this raiding party from the 10 Commandments gang had their sights set on this small village. The villagers, isolated and slow to spread information, hadn't even had time to pack their belongings before they were attacked. Cattle, sheep, food, everything that could be loaded onto the trucks was stolen. The women were all abducted and loaded onto the trucks, while the men were shot one by one. Here, bullets were worthless, what mattered were food, water, and livestock. Human lives came last. Load all the women onto the trucks. Hurry. Get rid of these guys. Don't waste my time. A man who appeared to be the leader stood in the center of the village, waving his hand and directing his men. They had to get back to their camp before nightfall, or their leader would take a bullet himself, just as he had taken bullets from these men. Chaos, death, cries of agony. This small village of fewer than 20 households was repeatedly witnessing the same tragic script. Whoosh! Thud! Clang! A bullet struck the wall beside the man, and at the same time, the wooden door on the other side was also hit hard, making a creaking sound. The man froze, then turned and roared at his men, "Are you blind? Bullets are hitting me right here. If you don't want to die, hurry up and get to work." The men didn't dare to say a word, not knowing which fool had asked for trouble, and quickly continued their cleaning of the houses. Whoosh! Thud! Thud! While the man was turning around and cursing, two more soft sounds came from behind him. This time it was much clearer than the last, and it was accompanied by two heavy thuds of objects falling to the ground. The man froze, slowly turning around. He saw that the men who had been holding the woman by the truck were now headless, only their bodies lying on the ground. The woman who had been restrained was standing there, stunned and terrified. Before he could react, two more muffled thuds sounded behind him. 2 more men's bodies fell to the ground, motionless. Now he finally understood, there was a sniper. His brain sent commands to his legs, but fear had overwhelmed him, and his legs couldn't carry out his commands. Only trembling remained, a tremor that spread throughout his entire body. As if demonstrating their power, the enemy fired 2 more muffled thuds. The 2 henchmen who had been pulling the sheep, just recovering from their shock, were reaped by death. Now everyone knew the direction of the enemy's attack. The 10 Commandments members scrambled for cover or pulled hostages to shield themselves from the sniper fire. But the leader remained motionless, or rather, dared not move. He understood that the enemy was deliberately sparing his life. The first 2 shots weren't fired by his men, he was now facing the same direction he had initially faced. Therefore, he could see clearly again where the 2 bullets had struck. One hit the wall, one hit the door, and his head was positioned directly in the middle of the 2 bullets. Although it looked very different. But the man knew that if his opponent shifted even slightly, he would end up like his men, his head shattered into pieces, leaving only a headless corpse. Whoosh! Thud! Another shot. Strange, why only 1 shot this time? Was the other one out of bullets? The man was clever, otherwise, he wouldn't have risen to a minor leader position in this dog-eat-dog world. By now, how could he not see that the enemy consisted of 2 snipers? But where was the other one? A terrifying thought flashed through his mind, refusing to leave. Was that person waiting for me to make a mistake? Yes, they were waiting for me to make a mistake. If I moved, that person would pull the trigger, and my head would be gone. That's right, look. Another one moved, dead, instantly dead. His head exploded, red and white fragments scattered everywhere. I can't move. Moving means death. That person is watching me. This psychopath is playing a hunting game. I am the damned prey, and he is the hunter. I don't want to die. I can't die here. Watch out, even if they were all dead, I won't move. Hey? Leni, is that leader an idiot? I'm not shooting him, why is he just standing there without moving an inch? How should I know? Be careful, don't kill him, I still need him. I'm almost there. I think his pants are wet, haha, hilarious. Did he pee his pants in fear? Does he think you won't shoot him just because he's not moving? Surely he's not that stupid? Leni was no longer at her original sniping position. Because S.H.I.E.L.D's mission required direct evidence, preferably bringing someone back alive. Therefore, she left Deadpool behind to provide sniping support and help clear out the smaller enemies. She herself went directly to capture the enemy leader. Now that idiot on the other side is standing still? That's good, saves him from running around and expending effort. Riding the motorcycle she took from the warehouse, she circled around to a direction where the enemy couldn't see her directly, heading towards the village. Leni quickly reached the side of the village and, taking advantage of the gunfire, successfully infiltrated the village. What are these guys doing, just standing there firing their guns like that? They're so short, what's the point of just shooting? Did I tell you to move? Stand still. Leni paused, realizing she was referring to the leader. He moved? No, he probably just finished peeing, he shuddered. Hey, damn it. You want to use a rocket? Just then, Leni saw a rocket launcher ascend from the center of the village. It looked like an RPG or something. It didn't seem to need locking on, flying erratically into the sky. Speaking of which, aren't Stark's rockets all lock on? Oh, I see, that thing is from Hammer's, damn counterfeit. Climbing over a low wall, Leni finally reached the center of the battlefield. The enemy now numbered less than 10, all hiding behind what appeared to be thick walls, while the leader was still standing in the center. These idiots, couldn't they have thrown a smoke grenade? Just standing there watching their boss stand there? TCH, even if they had one, I doubt it'd be a bad thing for them if their boss died. More mouths to feed. Yeah, that makes sense. Watch out, I'm going in. Without waiting for a reply, he pulled out a 9-shot flashbang with his left hand, removed the safety catch, and pulled the safety pin. With his right hand, he conjured a S.H.I.E.L.D rifle from thin air, then silently chanted, 3, 2, 1. He then threw the flashbang in the center of the village, right next to the leader. The leader thought someone was trying to kill him in the chaos and seize power. But the next second, a blinding flash of white light ripped through him, and he instantly lost consciousness. His men also lost their fighting ability, aimlessly firing in the direction of the sniper. Magazine after magazine emptied, as if they'd been given free ammunition. before being stunned by the 9-shot flashbang. Leni wasn't about to let this opportunity slip by. She raised the rifle by the buttocks with her right hand, gripped the RK vertical grip with her left, and pulled the trigger repeatedly with her index finger. PFFT. 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 The suppressed gunshots rang out in quick succession, and several enemies facing Leni fell to the ground. Leni didn't waste any more shots, firing several more to finish off the corpses. "Reload," she shouted into the microphone, quickly retreating to cover. Then, while moving rapidly, she pulled out the few remaining magazines and threw them into the air, then casually picked up another magazine and inserted it back into the magazine well. Since the magazines weren't empty, the SCAR wasn't in bolt hold open mode. There was still one round ready to fire in the chamber. Leni only needed to insert a new magazine to immediately aim and fire again. Over. Moving. Deadpool didn't answer her. As a veteran mercenary, he was naturally familiar with these combat commands. But his current role is that of a sniper. He only needs to help Leni eliminate targets that threaten him. The aftershocks of the 9-shot burst hadn't even subsided, and few of these guys had reacted in time to turn and retaliate. They were all still standing there, bewildered. After circling behind the last few, Leni repeated her previous maneuver, 9-shot burst followed by rapid single-shot fire. But the effect wasn't as good as before, because they were now prepared. Knowing there was an enemy nearby, how could they easily expose their backs? You should have used the 9-shot burst this time. You could have taken out at least 4 by drawing your gun directly. I know. Leni realized she was being somewhat ingrained in her thinking. Previously, when she worked with several S.H.I.E.L.D agents on missions, it was mostly urban warfare, with minimal equipment and a focus on CQB, close quarters battle. This led Leni to habitually continue using CQB tactics after arriving here. Having figured this out, Leni put away her SCAR rifle and instead took out a hand cannon from the warehouse. Operation Protocol activated, weapon restrictions lifted. Wow, such a Chunibaya line, I love it. So you're finally going to use that thick, black weapon? I've been wondering how you'd use it. Let me show you what a gunner is. Even more Chunibaya. Chapter 18, M137 Gatling Gun. Equipped with a hand cannon, Leni's previously empty left hand suddenly flashed with light and produced an identical hand cannon. Huh? Is this your ability? Creating something out of nothing? Don't ask, you won't learn it anyway. She darted over a low wall, using the momentum of her fall to slide, instantly closing in on several enemies. Then, she ducked to avoid oncoming bullets, her left hand pulling the hand cannon trigger behind her back. Using the recoil to activate the floating slide skill, Leni appeared directly in front of an enemy. Raising her right hand, she slammed the hand cannon muzzle into the enemy's chest, and before the person could react or struggle, she pulled the trigger. Boom. Intense compressed energy erupted from the muzzle, blasting a hole in the enemy's chest. The immense heat even charred the wound instantly, before blood could even flow. She spun to avoid the barrage of gunfire, using the corpse in front of her to block another enemy's view. Leni swung her left hand in a wide arc, delivering a heavy blow to the head of the enemy who had run out of ammunition. Heavy weapon pull-up. Then, with her right hand, she pressed the muzzle of the cannon against the enemy's chin and pulled the trigger. Boom. The man's entire face was gone. Bang. A single sniper shot eliminated the enemy who had been firing at Leni. Wade let out a strange cry. Wow. Crazy. That's so crazy. Crouching to dodge the last enemy who dared to resist, Leni yelled, "Shut up. Take the guy down, he's pinning me down." The last guy was carrying an M249 squad automatic weapon, which he had grabbed from a weapon case earlier. Now, using the cover, he was firing wildly at Leni's position. Damn. You think I didn't want to? That guy's too sneaky, I can't even hide him. This guy specifically chose a big rock. Deadpool said, firing 2.338 Lapu Magnum rounds at the enemy's position. He was completely out of ammo, and besides leaving 2 deep bullet holes in the boulder, he was completely useless. Damn. What good are you? Renee cursed, silently praying that the rock next to her would be reliable and not collapse too quickly. Rat-a-tat-tat. Rat-a-tat-tat. Hearing the enemy's firepower decreasing, it seemed they knew they were running low on ammo and were planning to slow down their barrage. Renee wasn't about to let this opportunity slip by. Taking advantage of the brief pause in the enemy's gunfire, her hand cannons disappeared. Then, A pale blue light flashed, and a violent machine exuding an aura of death appeared in her hands in the blink of an eye. Shit. Wade, who saw this scene clearly through the scope, almost dropped his jaw in shock. With a hiss, the motor started, and the 7.62mm barrels began to preheat and spin. Leni didn't get up. Instead, she half-squatted, swung the gun to her side, and pressed the button on the cover in front of her. Rat-a-tat-tat. A near-continuous barrage of gunfire instantly engulfed the entire battlefield, and orange-yellow spent cartridge cases littered the ground at Leni's feet within seconds. The already crumbling stone cover immediately crumbled under the weight, and a dense storm of bullets swept over the enemy. Almost in the blink of an eye, the enemy had met its end. But Leni didn't release the button on the M137 Gatling gun until there wasn't a single smooth spot left on the boulder. Gulp, the small-time leader, who had been lying prone after recovering from the 9-shot burst, and Wade, watching the battlefield from afar, both unconsciously swallowed hard. Damn it, let you shoot me with that machine gun. After catching her breath, the continuous firing of the Gatling gun had taken a heavy toll on Leni. Its firepower was sustained, and the ammunition consumption was terrifying. For Leni, it felt like she'd just finished a long run. Her level was still too low, the level 5 skills consumption was proving insufficient. Putting away the Gatling gun, Leni ignored the mangled flesh and blood. Instead, she took out a camera from her storage space and walked over to the terrified leader lying on the ground. She frowned, the smell was unpleasant, and it was better to stay a little further away. Then she turned on the camera and filmed the weapons in the distance, especially the Stark Industries logo, before turning to the man on the ground. Where did these weapons come from? Who's your leader? Leni skipped the unimportant questions about names and went straight to the point. The weapons, they were sold to us by Stark Industries. I don't know exactly who. We're all laser men. He's in charge of the 10 Commandments. Okay, I understand. Anything else? Yes. Our hideout is in the mountains somewhere. I can take you there. As long as you don't kill me. Not bad. Okay. Leni nodded, stood up, and shut down the camera. Then, without looking back, she slipped a hand cannon onto her left hand and pulled the trigger. Boom. Mission accomplished, let's go. Cool. The amazing Leni Stark. Shut up. After the battle, Leni distributed some food, drinking water, and some US dollars and gold coins to the surviving villagers. She urged them to pack their belongings quickly, drive the 10 Commandments trucks, and get as far away as possible. The farther they got from this area, the better they could escape these guys' attacks. As for their ultimate fate, Leni didn't know, and she didn't care. Didn't you say you wanted to capture him alive? I meant the best to capture him alive. Leni didn't care about Wade's question. Besides, I've already obtained the key information I needed, so the rest is useless to him. How did you know? Deadpool realized, yeah, you know what's going on with him. Yet, Baldy needs direct evidence, and as for who sold the weapons, he actually knows better than I do. Hey, it's not important. Now that the mission is complete, can you give me that pistol? It's been nagging me for days. You'll get yours. Leni casually reached out from the air with her right hand and tossed the blazing Claire into Deadpool's arms. Haha. Finally got it, my dear little darling. She gave the pervert sitting in the passenger seat, frantically yelling SHHHH, with a disdainful look. Leni slammed on the gas, intending to get out of this hellhole as quickly as possible. How can I contact you afterwards? Huh? Deadpool paused for a moment. I don't have a pager or anything, so it's really hard to communicate feelings. Leni ignored him. Never mind, anyway, I'll be there whenever you need my help in the future, and I'll be super cool and awesome. Deadpool gave her a thumbs up. Come on, nobody believes you. Don't say that, it'll hurt me. Ouch. If you do that again, I'll blow your avocado head off. Please don't do that. Afterwards, the two chatted about Deadpool and Wolverine on the way, and she gave him a few shiny remedies for emergencies. He might not need them himself, but someone else might. That night, Deadpool disappeared and returned to his parallel universe. Since Leni no longer needed to track down the 10 Commandments, the return trip was quick. She only needed to drive to the nearest airport. She had already contacted S.H.I.E.L.D. to have a transport plane bring her back to the agency. 2 days later, Leni returned to the station. The first thing she did upon arrival was to take a relaxing bath. A little massage would have been even better, Character level increased to LV, 12, M137 Gatling gun, floating shovel, and other skills +1, she'd leveled up again, huh? Our skill levels here similar to proficiency? Does using a skill more increase its level? Character, Leni Testarossa Stark, race, celestial, class, gunner, subclass, alchemist, character template, rainbow rain, level, LV, 12 skills, heavy weapon mastery, M137 Gatling gun, heavy weapon pull-up, silver bullet, floating shovel, back kick, spinning kick, barbecue, nail shot, RX-78 chaser, alchemy, equipment, relic, mysterious silver lake Narcissus heavy hand cannon, quest, main quest, blooming celestial roses, part 1, quest objective, obtain the complete gunner class inheritance and unlock the gunner's complete arsenal, quest reward, superpower supply pack, after reaching level 10, Leni can equip weapons. However, she doesn't have any decent low-level equipment in her inventory, so she has to spend a lot of money to buy one from the system auction house as a temporary solution. Normally, Leni wouldn't even glance at such trash equipment, but this damn system is demanding 10 million gold coins to buy it. At such a high price, who are you going to sell it to? Sell it to me, then it's fine. The system must know Leni has a ton of high-level weapons and equipment, but lacks beginner gear, so it's been setting a trap for her. Leni stared at the main quest for ages, but couldn't figure it out, and she couldn't remember what the reward was. Does the female gunner's class system have something like that? Or is it that third awakening backpack? No way, she really doesn't need that. As for the quest objective, which lacked any detailed hints, Leni was even more clueless. What do you mean by obtaining the complete inheritance? Where am I supposed to find a gunner in this area? I can't exactly summon a gunner mentor like Kelly from thin air, can I? Chapter 19. No, I just want to give her an offer. A week later, Las Vegas, America, visionary, genius, American patriot, son of legendary weapons developer Howard Stark in his youth, he quickly attracted public attention with his outstanding mind. Watching the introduction of Tony Stark on the big screen, Leni couldn't help but mentally complain, why did she have to do this arduous task? Although this mission was long-term, making her secretly protect this playboy was a joke. Did he need her protection? In a while, the whole country might need his protection. As the liaison with Stark Industries, I am particularly honored to be able to speak with a true. So, Colonel James Rhodes in this world is black? Noticing that the military Air Force colonel was also wearing a MIT graduation ring engraved with the letters MIT, Leni realized that this good friend of Tony Stark was also her senior from MIT. She hadn't always worn her ring, she only used it on more formal occasions. To demonstrate her shared status as a genius, she clearly no longer needed to use MIT to build her image. After seeing the big boss, Obadiah Stine, take the stage, Leni had even less intention of staying. She'd rather go to the casino and see that genius. Leni's departure at this moment clearly showed no respect for the eloquent Obadiah Stine on stage. Those around her were somewhat puzzled. Weren't all the guests at this press conference partners of Stark Industries? Why was someone being so disrespectful to the second-in-command? Obadiah noticed Leni's actions but showed no displeasure. It didn't garner his attention, she was just a young, inexperienced girl. He calmly continued to bail out Colonel Rhodes. After exchanging some gold coins for a few high-denomination chips, Leni casually found a seat at a blackjack table. Thanking the waiter for the cocktail, Leni signaled the dealer to reveal the cards. A king, an 8, 18 points, the highest score in the game. There wasn't much to say, so she signaled the dealer to continue. A face-down card was presented to Leni, and without any ceremony, she flipped it over, a 3 of hearts, 21 points. The other guests at the table exclaimed in amazement at Leni's good luck. However, lucky people in Las Vegas are incredibly common, so it wasn't anything special. Then came 3s and 5s, followed by a face-down 7 of spades, 15 points, the lowest possible hand. There was already a player with 20 points, so normally one would fold in this situation. But Leni still asked the dealer to continue. This time, the dealer only dealt cards to Leni, everyone else folded. She flipped it over without hesitation, a 6 of hearts, another win, 21 points. The onlookers were once again amazed by Leni's luck. This beauty was having a stroke of incredible luck today. The next few rounds were the same, Leni always called for cards. As long as she didn't bust or reach 20 points at the start, Leni would definitely continue betting, winning more than she lost. Even the other players sitting nearby couldn't help but exclaim in amazement, then leaned over to ask, "Beautiful lady, is this your first time playing this?" Leni was a little puzzled, but nodded in acknowledgement, wondering how anyone could tell. No wonder, it's the newbie protection period. Let's continue. Hearing this, the surrounding people relaxed their surprise. This kind of scene was not uncommon. Often, there were a few newbies in the game who, with their incredible beginner luck, dominated the field. But if they didn't stop in time, they would often lose everything they won. "I'm done playing, the person I'm looking for is here." Leni shook her head, gave the remaining chips to the beautiful woman watching, and got up to walk towards Tony Stark and his group who were about to leave. Blocking their path, a bright smile appeared on her beautiful face. "Hello, seniors, I'm Leni Testarossa, a top graduate from MIT. Tony Stark, who couldn't resist beautiful women, couldn't let such a good opportunity pass by and immediately spoke before Rhodes could. Oh? Beautiful junior? Let me guess, economics? No, drama? What do you think, Roddy?" "I think it's literature." Leni smiled sweetly. "Physics, Mr. Stark." "Really? That's wonderful. Interested in an internship at Stark Industries?" "Of course, but actually, I'm contacting you because my alma mater asked me to inform you, Mr. Stark, please don't forget your commencement speech at MIT. We look forward to your appearance." Upon hearing it was about work, Tony's interest waned. "Don't say that, that's in June." "Huh, he hates talking about work in private, and he hates being rushed." Roddy smoothed things over slightly. "Yes, I hate being rushed. Rushed for manuscripts, rushed for reports, rushed for anything." "Is that so?" Leni immediately offered an apologetic smile. "Oh, by the way, may I ask Mr. Stark a question, just on my own behalf?" "Of course. What are your specific views on Stark Industries' export of military weapons to Afghanistan?" "For peace, as I said, everything I do is for world peace." Leni's smile vanished. "I hope things turn out as you wish, Mr. Stark." With that, her previously charming demeanor changed, and she turned and left with a stern face. This left Tony and Rhodes completely bewildered. Why did she suddenly turn around and leave when everything was fine just moments ago? Tony was caught off guard, and his initial plan to have some fun was gone. He said goodbye to Rhodes and prepared to go back. But as soon as he stepped outside, he was stopped by a beautiful reporter from Vanity Fair, who then labeled him a deadly arms dealer. This fueled his already simmering anger, and he resolved to teach this blonde, blue-eyed Brown University student a lesson. The next morning, Tony stared at the screen and asked his AI assistant, "Search for recent MIT graduates named Leni." Yes, after a whole night, that was the only name he remembered. If she hadn't also graduated from MIT, he probably would have only remembered Leni. 7 results were found. The AI assistant, Jarvis, displayed the graduation information of 7 women on the large screen, one of whom was Leni Testarossa Stark. Zoom in on this. Tony looked at the photo in the file, confirming that this slightly immature girl was indeed the beautiful woman who had turned on him like a whirlwind last night. Stark? The playboy frowned. He had only been curious about this woman who hadn't given him face. After all, she was also a graduate of MIT. If she had good qualifications, he could arrange an internship for her at his company, which would be a way of giving back to his alma mater. However, the surname Stark. She also lives in Malibu. The file clearly stated her home address, also in Malibu, California, not too far from his seaside villa. Jarvis highlighted Leni's hometown address on the map. "Yes, sir, the records show her parents died 2 years ago in a plane crash, and the airline paid her a large sum of money." "What were her parents' names?" Jarvis immediately pulled up the records of another couple and showed them the list of victims of the plane crash they were on. "So, it's not Howard's dark history, is it?" Tony breathed a sigh of relief. If it was just someone with the same last name, Stark, then there was nothing to worry about. Search her graduation thesis and resume. Just then, Pepper Potts came down the stairs and immediately saw Tony openly searching for the young woman's information. She couldn't help but tease him. "Are the Vanity Fair reporters not enough for you? Now you're searching for MIT students?" Since she only glanced at it, Pepper first noticed the huge MIT logo on the file. Then she noticed the girl's appearance, and finally the name. Leni Testarossa? So she also has the surname Stark? Tony turned to Pepper, puzzled. "You know her?" "Yes, I received an email from her before. To be precise, you received one, but I replied for you. She mentioned some issues about Afghanistan in the email. Your reply was for peace. Afghanistan again? Tony frowned, somewhat confused, even though he was indeed flying to Afghanistan that afternoon. What? Need me to arrange for her to have dinner with you? Pepper looked down at the documents in her hand. No need. I just think this girl's thesis and resume are quite good. I could give her an internship at Stark Industries. Jarvis? Roger, sir, sending an offer to Miss Leni Testarossa Stark. So, you came down here too. I came to inform you that you should be on your way to the other side of the world now. Chapter 20. Perhaps, you are each other's last family. For your reference, the Jericho missile. Just as Tony was demonstrating his company's new weapon to the Afghan military, on the other side of the world, at S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters in Washington, D.C., Leni looked at the email message on her computer, somewhat bewildered. Why would this rich second-generation guy offer her a job? She hadn't even submitted a resume to Stark Industries. Just one interview yesterday, and this playboy already had his eye on her? Surely not. Although she'd heard he was open to anyone, this was too outrageous. But this was a perfect opportunity to get into Stark Industries through the offer. Ideally, she could get close to Pepper Potts, so she could better fulfill S.H.I.E.L.D's mission. Besides, perhaps she could use this opportunity to obtain more inside information and maybe even acquire some Stark Company shares. Thinking it feasible, Leni immediately contacted her colleagues at S.H.I.E.L.D to help introduce her to a legal advisor and a financial assistant. Before Stark Industries' stock collapsed, she would quickly gather the necessary talent, and once the stock price dropped, she would immediately begin acquisitions. Ideally, she would acquire some scattered shares. Having entrusted the matter entirely to her agent, Leni spent the night in a Las Vegas hotel and headed to the Stark Industries factory in Los Angeles the next day. As soon as she arrived downstairs, she saw a Rolls-Royce parked in front of the company. Pepper Potts, looking anxious, got out of the car and hurried towards the building. Seeing this, Leni quickly guessed that something had happened to Tony Stark. A thought flashed through her mind, and she pretended not to notice, bumping into her. Pepper, rushing towards them, didn't notice Leni approaching and kept walking inside, only to be bumped right into, her briefcase falling to the ground. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Are you alright? Leni quickly helped her up, not wanting her to really fall. Didn't she see the security guards at the door were about to rush in? It's alright, why weren't you careful, Pepper Potts, with Renee's help, regained her balance. She was about to reprimand whoever was so rude when she recognized the woman. You're Leni Testarossa? Yes, that's me. You must be Miss Pepper Potts. As rumored, you are indeed very beautiful and capable. You flatter me. You're here for the job interview, right? I know about your situation. Please come with me, something urgent has come up at the company. Pepper took the briefcase from Renee and hurriedly led her into the building. Because Pepper was leading the way, the company security personnel didn't try to stop Renee. The three of them headed straight for the elevator, skipping the receptionist and going straight to the CEO's office upstairs. Wait here for a moment. I'll go inside and arrange things for you later. Okay, please go ahead. There was no pretense, it was clear Tony's matter was more important. Pepper's polite treatment was already a great favor, waiting outside was fine. Pepper Potts went inside, leaving only Leni and Happy at the door. Out of politeness, Leni greeted the portly Happy. Hello, my name is Leni Testarossa. It's nice to meet you, we've met before. Happy, however, was unimpressed. In his eyes, she was just another worldly woman trying to climb the social ladder by marrying his boss. Therefore, he simply replied politely, nice to meet you. After shaking hands and seeing that she wasn't interested in continuing the conversation, Leni decided not to bother her. Having done her duty with a polite greeting, she stood quietly to the side, waiting. During this time, Happy also sized Leni up. His impression of this woman was still from Las Vegas the previous night. This beautiful girl didn't seem as passionate as other women trying to sleep with Tony. Yet, she'd been summoned to the company by his boss after only one night, presumably the legendary playing hard to get tactic. But given the current situation, it seemed this woman's plan was about to fail. If she were truly capable, she could easily establish herself in the company with her MIT degree. But if she was hoping to use her connections to climb the corporate ladder, Forget about it. After a long while, it seemed they had finalized a plan before Pepper Potts finally left the CEO's office. With a sigh, Pepper looked at Leni beside her. Come with me for now. The company will be quite busy recently, so I'll temporarily assign you to the research department as a lab assistant. If you have any research topics that interest you later, you can apply to the company. The person in charge there will guide you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Potts. And so, Leni was placed under Dr. William in the research department, temporarily responsible for the daily maintenance of the arc reactor. Seeing such a beautiful young woman interning under him, the balding Dr. William was naturally overjoyed. He hurriedly nodded and saw Pepper Potts off, then turned around and began to take care of the newcomer in a haughty manner. Leni could only silently complain about this and deliberately kept her distance. Although she had been forced to learn many techniques for seducing male targets from Agent Romanoff while at S.H.I.E.L.D., she never wanted to use them. Thus, the repetitive work schedule became Leni's new life. For convenience, Leni rented an apartment in Los Angeles and bought a Porsche 911 Carrera 4S. Her first day driving to work attracted the attention of many colleagues, who wondered why this newcomer had such a nice car. Leni didn't explain much, simply saying she had some savings. More than a month passed. Although Stark Industries tried its best to cover up Tony's disappearance, and the military made no response, various media outlets with their own sources reported that the wealthy arms dealer had died in Afghanistan, and even within the company, rumors began to circulate. Obadiah Stane, the current head of the company, publicly stated that Tony was at home conducting research and hadn't left, hoping the media wouldn't jump to conclusions. However, numerous media outlets at odds with Stark Industries immediately jumped in, saying, "Since Tony is alright, let him come out and show himself." The most vocal among them was Hammer Industries, which is also at odds with Stark Industries. Pepper Potts even suspected that their people had leaked the information. After all, as a fellow military partner, Hammer Industries had virtually no difficulty obtaining internal military information. Obadiah did not respond further. He only hoped to buy time, hoping the military could find Tony as soon as possible, dead or alive. Meanwhile, he secretly arranged for a large-scale acquisition of Stark Industries shares, intending to seize this opportunity to completely control Stark Industries. However, the acquisition process repeatedly failed. The small number of retail shareholders he had initially contacted all claimed to have sold their shares, resulting in less than 1/10 of the shares actually being acquired. It's nothing, just a minor skirmish. Some people want to ride the wave and get a piece of the action. Let them have their share. This small amount of stock won't cause any trouble. Yes, you're right. We don't even care about this small share. Okay, go ahead. Focus your attention on that old guy. He should go back and enjoy his retirement. Understood. His subordinates left, leaving Obadiah alone in the huge CEO's office. Facing the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, he swirled his whiskey, overlooking everything in Los Angeles. What I want in my hands, no one can take away. Meanwhile, in a dark cave in the mountains of Afghanistan. What you just saw, those weapons, your life's work is going to fall into the hands of those murderers. Do you want to die like this, Mr. Stark? They'll kill me, they'll kill you, and even if they don't, I only have a week to live. That week will be crucial for you, won't it? What is this? Palladium, 0.15 grams. We need at least 1.6 grams. Go and dismantle the other 11. It's a miniature arc reactor. I have a big one at home that powers my factory. This should be enough to stop shrapnel from reaching my heart. What's its power output? If I'm not mistaken, I usually don't miscalculate. It generates 3 gigajoules per second. That's enough for 15 lifetimes. Or to run a big one for 15 minutes. After surgery by Surgeon He-Sen, Tony Stark was finally rid of that damn car battery. He could finally take a proper shower and groom himself. During their downtime, the two played a simple dice game in the cave. When the conversation turned to family, Tony's expression darkened. No? So it's ironic that you, who have everything, have nothing. Perhaps, but... At that moment, Tony couldn't help but think of someone who had been by his side for years, not family but closer than family. If only he could go back this time. By the way, do you know a girl named Leni Stark? What? Tony was taken aback. Why was that name coming from Ethan's mouth? Why do you ask? You know her? Ethan frowned, recalling for a moment. 2 years ago, I was a visiting professor at MIT. A young woman wanted to develop a robotic surgical device. She called it the Da Vinci robot, and I was invited to an academic conference about it. That woman's name was Leni Stark, though she didn't call herself that. At the time, I was puzzled as to why a physics student would want to work in medicine. Later, I heard from the students there that she was your father's illegitimate daughter. Because of the scandal, she was particularly averse to being called Leni Stark. Tony frowned. Leni Testarossa Stark. Yes, that's her name. She called herself Leni Testarossa. Ethan's face showed a strange expression. So, she really is your father's? I didn't know. That old man never told me that. I see. But I later heard that something happened to the young woman's family. The Da Vinci robot technology was bought, and after that, I don't know anything. Her parents were on that plane in the crash 2 years ago. Hearing this, Ethan's face darkened, but after a moment's thought, he added, perhaps you're each other's last remaining family in this world. Tony's right hand, holding the dice, paused, unable to throw it for a long time. Chapter 21. In this life, I will never let you suffer again. Leni, I need you to go to Afghanistan again. Why should I? You can't be black-hearted just because you're dark-skinned. You can't always fleece the same sheep. That's the best place for you. No way. That's the same thing you told me last time. Leni showed no respect for the bureau chief. When I came back last time, I asked around, and Clint and Rumlow were both there. You were just messing with me. I had other plans for them. Bullshit. Leni wasn't going to listen to his nonsense. I originally thought S.H.I.E.L.D really had that many field missions. You've assigned me over 10 field missions in 3 months. Anyone who didn't know better would think we were in the Cold War. Let me tell you, Baldy, even if Tony Stark is alright, or even if he is, it's none of my business. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Yes, I am Stark, but this body has absolutely nothing to do with that rich kid. Don't even think about making me become that playboy's mistress. She doesn't want to, and neither do I. With that, Leni ignored Nick Fury's livid face and slammed the door as she left. Someone. Withhold all of Leni's salary and benefits for this month. And add another 20% to her gold coin exchange fee. Before Callison could even close the door, Leni, who hadn't gone far outside, heard this and shouted angrily, I don't care. That damn Nick Fury, treating me like a donkey, go to hell. Suspend her. This is outrageous. It's only been a few months, is she going through a rebellious phase? Callison didn't say a word, remaining silent until his superior calmed down before slowly saying, Chief, I'll contact the military and have them search that valley more thoroughly. Nick Fury merely glanced at him without replying. In the situation just now, anyone with experience in the underworld wouldn't directly confront their superior, and Nick Fury's handling was perfectly reasonable. But Callison felt that his chief had made a mistake based on experience. Although Leni was already 21 years old, before this, she had only spent time on a college campus. She was recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D's research lab even before graduating, spending her first 4 years almost entirely on research experiments. Adding to that the plane crash 2 years prior, it was remarkable that this young woman survived that difficult period. Now, having merged with the soul of someone from another world and gained power, how could she possibly compromise herself so easily? Regarding Leni's past, the facts are not far from Callison's guess. Leni genuinely disliked the Stark surname during her school years, even though she had once been proud of it and strived for it. But there was always a Stark far more outstanding than her. Leni graduated from MIT at 20, while Callison had already graduated 3 years earlier at 20. He painstakingly researched cross-industry development, only to have his patented technology stolen by a damned pharmaceutical company, forcing Leni to proactively offer technology transfer. The Stark she had worked so hard to prove herself became, in others' eyes, a mere imitator, even the child of the Stark family. Until the Stark surname became a thing of the past, the deaths of her parents snapped her already strained nerves. Escape and venting became the main themes of Leni's life. Shooting, racing cars, she tried every extreme sport imaginable, except for anything illegal. With the insurance payout, she could just go on and on. If it weren't for the help of an auntie living in Hell's Kitchen, she almost would have been tricked. Then S.H.I.E.L.D approached her, inviting her to participate in a clean energy development project, and she agreed without hesitation. Even though it was deserted, it suited her perfectly, away from the past, away from her classmates, away from her troubles. Until... Vroom vroom. The deafening roar of the engine as the Ford F-150's engine unleashed its full potential, speeding wildly down the highway. At that moment, Leni seemed to truly feel, as she had told Nick Fury, that someone was influencing her. She wanted to vent, to release her pent-up frustrations, just like 2 years ago. Buzz, buzz. Just then, the phone on the passenger seat rang. A glance at the caller ID showed it was Natasha. Leni didn't answer, continuing to press the accelerator recklessly, and then the call ended. Natasha sent another message. The director has arranged for Carlson to communicate with the military. You should rest outside for a while. I'll contact you if there's a mission. Good night. After glancing at the message, Leni thought for a moment, then pulled the car over to the side of the road and replied to Natasha, okay. Then, looking at the scenery outside the car window, she slowly exhaled a breath of stale air. Don't worry, I will never let you suffer any more injustice in this life. Driving to a small house in Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan, Leni parked the car, picked up the various gifts she had bought along the way, and knocked on the door. Who is it? It's me, Aunt May Leni. The person inside was extremely surprised and quickly opened the door to let Leni in. Why are you here? It's been so long. Didn't you say you joined an experimental institution? Why are you back? Aunt May's concern was still so warm, and her continuous questions made Leni, who had been alone for many years, feel very at ease. Oh dear, you're here already. Why bring anything? Come on in. Once inside, Renee placed the various gifts she was carrying on the table and greeted Uncle Ben, who was reading the newspaper. Uncle Ben, I brought you a gift. Oh? What's this? If it's not to my liking, I'll kick you out. His kind smile reminded Renee of her own father. Don't worry, I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Just then, a series of thump-thump-thump sounds came from the stairs not far away. It was little Parker who had heard the noise. Sister Renee. You're finally here. Did you bring me a gift? Haha. You little rascal. Say something nice, and I'll give you a gift. My dearest, beautiful, generous, and incredibly clever sister Renee, you're the best. You'll definitely give Parker a gift, won't you? Ha ha ha. Seeing this, Renee, Aunt May, and Uncle Ben all burst into laughter. You little rascal. Here, it's the latest Element skateboard. Thank you, Sister Leni. Little Parker was overjoyed to receive the gift, like a silly boy, and went to the sofa to unpack it. Aunt May, these are skincare products for you. I also ordered a new set of kitchen utensils for you. They're on their way and will arrive in a couple of days. Uncle Ben, this is for you, a Ford F-150. Let me explain. This car isn't brand new, it's a used one. You can use it to pick up and drop off little Parker, or do some business, it'll be convenient. But Leni stopped Uncle Ben from declining. I know you're worried about the safety here. I told you before to move out with Aunt May, but you insisted you couldn't bear to leave your neighbors. Well, I won't force you. You can keep this car. Don't worry about it getting stolen or anything, you know I'm not short of money. Besides, having a car will make things more convenient for you, right? Don't worry about gas either, I'll send you extra money regularly. I don't need it anyway, so don't feel bad about it. Okay, that's settled. He forcefully shoved the car keys into Uncle Ben's hand. I used to drive this car, but I got a new one. This one isn't quite right for me. You can keep it and take Aunt May for a drive when you have time. Unable to persuade Leni, Uncle Ben finally had to accept the gift. Afterwards, Aunt May invited Leni to stay for dinner and insisted on staying the night. And so, Leni, who hadn't experienced the warmth of home for a long time, spent the most peaceful night she had spent in a long time. Director, breaking news. These are satellite images just now. A massive explosion just occurred in the area suspected to be where Stark is being held. Tony Stark's life is in danger. The door to the director's office at S.H.I.E.L.D. was suddenly pushed open, and it was Maria Hill, Nick Fury's trusted aide. Hill handed him a tablet, displaying satellite footage of Afghanistan. Nick Fury immediately took it and examined it. The satellite imagery showed a violent explosion at the previously marked Ten Commandments gathering area, followed by what appeared to be something flying out of the blast and landing about 2 kilometers away. The military has dispatched the nearest patrol team, and they expect. Before Hill could finish speaking, her phone rang. She checked her phone. Sure enough, it was someone who had contacted her at this hour. Carlson has sent a message confirming it's the missing Tony Stark. Hearing this, The director breathed a sigh of relief. At least he was safe. Notify Coulson, he can come back. Prepare contingency plans as soon as possible. This time, the Stark family is about to change dramatically. Yes, sir. Agent Hill, having nothing else to say, turned to leave after taking the tablet, but Nick interrupted. I heard that Leni is acquiring Stark shares? Hill stopped and turned back to retrieve the data from the tablet. Yes, she's been acquiring shares at irresistible prices, and bought a large number of Stark Industries shares when the stock price fell. And 2 days ago, she completed a stock transaction, snatching shares from Obadiah of a Stark Industries board member, bringing her stake to over 10%. The exact percentage is currently unknown due to lack of public data. I understand. The director nodded, indicating Hill could leave. Leni Testarossa Stark, is this a declaration of your return, or revenge against the Stark family? Looking at Leni's blood sample analysis data and the DNA comparison report with Tony Stark on the monitor, Nick fell into deep thought. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Give him an irresistible price. The next day, Leni, who had just flown back to California from New York, received a sudden message from Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as she got off the plane. Tony Stark has been found and is about to return to New York. The director orders you to go and protect him covertly. This time, Leni didn't refuse. Although she disliked the scheming nature of the bald-headed man and hated the super playboy, putting aside that identity, her favorite superhero was still him. These two feelings seemed contradictory, but in reality, they weren't conflicting. How could anyone dislike Tony like that? Finding her Porsche 911 parked in the airport parking lot, Leni immediately drove to the Stark Industries factory. Going there to find Tony Stark was far more reliable than going to a military base. On the way, Leni called her financial assistant again, informing her to closely monitor Stark Industries' stock price fluctuations. She wasn't short of money. Then, just as she was about to arrive at her destination, Coulson called again, telling Leni that Tony Stark was about to hold a press conference and that she should return to the Stark Industries factory. Leni replied, I'm almost at the Stark Industries factory. You called too late. She parked in her usual spot, took out her phone, and glanced at it. Sure enough, the news of Tony Stark's return has caused Stark Industries stock to rise again. She casually sent a message to her assistant, I told you my information was accurate. This time we can make a killing. Without even checking the reply, Leni confidently took her Stark Industries work badge from the armrest and strode into the company. A moment later, Leni received another call from Coulson. I'm here. Where are you? I'm at the company. You go about your business, don't worry about me. Leni hung up, leaving Coulson completely bewildered. Meanwhile, leisurely enjoying her lunch in the employee lounge with a cheeseburger she bought on the way, she watched the media coming and going at the entrance with amusement. A short while later, a Rolls-Royce pulled into the company, where a large group of military personnel, government officials, and media representatives greeted it with applause. They seemed to be welcoming the company's big boss back, with Obadiah Stan at the head of the group. We were thinking of picking you up from the hospital. No need, I'm perfectly fine. You bought a hamburger, did you bring it for me? This is the last one, I wanted some more. All right then. The group marched into the company's press room. Leni was already standing in a corner, watching Tony being surrounded by the crowd. At the same time, she noticed a man with a dangerously receding hairline approaching Pepper. I'm not a reporter, I'm Agent Phil Coulson, from the Strategic Homeland Security and Logistics Agency. What a tongue-twisting name. Just by looking at his lip movements, Leni could tell that Coulson was pronouncing that long, tedious name again. When this guy forced her to memorize the name, Leni had told him to just use the abbreviation, S.H.I.E.L.D, wouldn't that be enough? But that guy was inexplicably rigid, insisting on waiting for official confirmation from the department before making any changes to the public. He wasn't usually like this. Could everyone please sit down? Hearing this, Leni put on her sunglasses and stood at a distance, leisurely intending to watch the show. Everyone, please sit down, it won't seem so formal. Coulson, who was also not seated, gave Leni a look, which she ignored. Anyway, with her sunglasses on, he couldn't see her wink, so she pretended not to notice. I couldn't say goodbye to my father. I have a question for him. I want to ask him what he thinks of the company's actions, whether he struggled, whether he had doubts. Perhaps he's exactly the man in the newsreel. I saw young people being killed. At this moment, Tony, scanning the room, noticed someone standing in the corner. Wearing a well-fitting women's suit, a neat and simple high ponytail, sunglasses, and a slightly playful smile, Tony paused slightly. Seeing that Tony had noticed her, Leni's smile vanished, replaced by a serious expression. But inwardly, she was already laughing gleefully at the prospect of making a fortune from Stark Industries stock. But the weapons that killed them were the very weapons I created to protect them, Tony said, his eyes fixed on Obadiah. That old man. Obadiah's face had changed. Ho, I'm dying of laughter. Therefore, effective immediately, I announced the closure of Stark Industries' weapons production department. Seeing the act was over, Leni turned and walked out of the press conference room, heading to the parking lot. In a good mood today, she was skipping work. Tony, surrounded by the crowd, looked around for Leni, but didn't find her. Just like when he first met her, she left without a word, without any ceremony. Meanwhile, Leni drove to a nearby burger joint, ordered fries and a Coke, and got back in her car to wait for someone. Who taught you to make contact like that? Carlson, who had noticed the Porsche 911 from afar, circled it once, opened the passenger door, and got into the passenger seat, immediately uttering a question that made her cringe. Leni didn't need to think twice, it was definitely Natasha who had told him, otherwise he wouldn't have asked that question verbatim. She'd definitely teach him a lesson when they got back. Just kidding, nice car. Leni ignored him, gesturing for him to get down to business. Stark escaped from there using some kind of tool, but a doctor named Ethan died there. I've met him, he was a visiting professor at Massachusetts for a while. I consulted him in person about a research project. Really? That's truly regrettable. My colleagues in the psychology department believe that Ethan's death drastically changed Tony's personality. Yes, to have your savior die before your eyes is indeed heartbreaking. Carlson paused, stunned, and glanced at Leni, who was nonchalantly drinking her cola beside him. Our people later learned that Tony had something resembling a small arc reactor implanted in his chest, the reason for which is currently unknown. Yet, he would have died without that. Leni ate her fries, stammering absent-mindedly. Carlson nodded, his suspicions growing stronger. So we need you to investigate Tony Stark's situation, preferably by getting in touch with him. Impossible, they have an AI butler at home, I can't get in without permission, and in the current situation, he can't even leave the house. The director's exact words were, "That's your job, TCH, that damn bald guy." Leni pouted and continued drinking her cola. Then you need to investigate why Tony escaped, preferably with detailed information. Did that also come from bald guy? Leni looked at Carlson in surprise, seeing him nod. Is there no one else at S.H.I.E.L.D? You're the most suitable. That's what he said too. The two said in unison. Damn it. Marbury Seaside Villa, Jarvis, search for Leni Stark. Sir, Miss Leni is currently residing in Los Angeles. 3 months ago, Miss Potts arranged for her to join Stark Industries. Is she at work now? No, sir. Records show that Miss Leni was absent from work today. Absent from work? Yes, sir. In addition, records show that Miss Leni recently applied to the company for a personal laboratory. However, the request was not approved. The experimental project was artificial star. Controlled thermonuclear fusion technology? Interesting. Tony picked up the ballpoint pen on the table and fiddled with it for a moment. Sent her an invitation, saying I intend to discuss her proposal with her. Yes, sir. Tony turned to start working on rebuilding a new small arc reactor, then, as if remembering something, said to Jarvis, search for Da Vinci robot. The Da Vinci robot was first proposed by MIT student Leni Testarossa, and the patent is currently held by XX Pharmaceuticals. Looking at the various papers, experimental data, and clinical data specifically named Leni Testarossa, Tony thought to himself, as expected. Then he found the name he sent in the data, which saddened him. His resolve to close Stark Industries' weapons production department resurfaced. Contact that company for me, and in my name, acquire this patent. Give them an irresistible price. Yes, sir, I'm informing Miss Potts. Happy New Year. Orange wishes everyone great wealth, small wealth, unexpected wealth, May your fortune flow in. May you have good fortune in your career, good luck, and good love every day. 3 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 23, The Dawn That Dispels the Moonlight. Miss Leni, Mr. Stark wants to see you. He hopes you can come to his house. Huh? Leni, who was sitting alone in the staff break room flipping through a gossip magazine, was stunned when a staff member suddenly approached her. What did you say? As soon as these words were spoken, not only Leni herself, but also the other colleagues who were resting nearby were attracted to the staff member's attention. It's like this, Mr. Stark is very interested in the artificial star project you proposed at the company, and hopes you can come to his house for an in-depth discussion. In-depth discussion? Leni's face changed drastically. On the other side, the crowd watching the spectacle sighed, lamenting that another good catch was about to be taken by Stark. Yes, please go as soon as possible. After saying that, before Leni could react, the person turned and left. Hey. Don't go. No, explain yourself clearly. Glancing out of the corner of her eye at the group of single researchers who were pounding their chests in frustration, Leni knew that this misunderstanding was absolutely huge. Even with her thick skin, she couldn't stay here any longer, so she quickly got up, changed out of her white coat, and headed to the parking lot. Throughout the journey, Leni was filled with mixed emotions. In her past life, as a Marvel fan, her favorite character was undoubtedly Iron Man. 10 years of Marvel, beginning with Iron Man, ending with Iron Man. This phrase perfectly encapsulates the character's significance. But in this life, as Leni, she harbored deep resentment towards this guy. Especially his surname, which caused her immense psychological harm. Coupled with his playboy personality, who knew why he was looking for her this time? He hadn't even officially started a relationship with Pepper yet. After thinking for a long time, she still didn't know what to do, so she decided to just deal with it as it came. If he dared to lay a hand on her, she'd just pull out her cannon and blast him. She parked the car in front of the villa. Since she had received the address from Pepper via text message beforehand, finding it wasn't difficult. Although Leni already knew where Tony Stark's house was. Hello? Hello, Miss Leni, Mr. Stark is waiting for you. The door opened automatically, and a mechanical voice sounded. Thank you, Mr. Artificial Intelligence. Stepping into the villa, after passing through the entrance hall, she saw Pepper sitting in the living room organizing various documents. Leni, it's so nice to see you again. Me too, and I brought you a gift. Leni and Pepper had a pretty good relationship. Since Pepper had arranged for her to join the company, Leni would invite Pepper out to dinner whenever she had the chance. However, at that time, Pepper was focused on her boss and didn't always have time to go out with her. Leni handed over the gift she had prepared in advance. Didn't you say you bought yourself a really pretty dress last time? So I thought and brought you a really pretty necklace. Open it and take a look. Really? Thank you so much. Pepper was very surprised when she heard this and took the gift, opening the package. Inside was a gold necklace that emitted a faint glow, with a clear red gemstone set on a crescent-shaped pendant. Its elegance was immediately apparent. Its name is Dawn That Dispels Moonlight. What do you think? Do you like it? It's too beautiful. This isn't appropriate. What's appropriate or inappropriate? Here, let me put it on for you. Without giving Pepper a chance to refuse, he reached into the box, picked up the necklace, walked behind her, and put it on for her. How is it? Doesn't it look good? Leni gestured for her to look in the mirror, then asked, Mr. Stark wanted to see me? Oh. Pepper, almost forgetting her business after being bribed by the gift, quickly led Leni to the basement entrance. He's downstairs, I won't go in, you two talk. Okay, thank you. Although called a basement, the studio was actually very well lit due to its location on the coast, completely lacking any impression of darkness or dampness. At this moment, Tony was adjusting a mechanical device that looked like a boot. Perfect timing, Leni Stark? It's Leni Testarossa, Mr. Stark. What brings you here? Hasn't the company made things clear? Tony put down the soldering iron and leisurely crossed his arms, sizing Leni up. I heard you were working on artificial star technology and submitted an application for a personal laboratory, but it ultimately failed? Yes, I needed safer thermonuclear testing equipment, but the company didn't approve it. Leni remained composed. That's normal. Not only the company, but I wouldn't approve your application either. Then why did you call me here? Tony didn't respond, but snapped his fingers. A holographic screen immediately displayed some theoretical data Leni had stored on the company's computer. What's the basis of your theory? Logically, even if Leni stored this information in S.H.I.E.L.D's system, it shouldn't be stored in Stark Industries' database. But in reality, apart from a few useful theoretical points, it was all empty shells. The most important data and models were in Leni's mind. All the stuff you've got is a smokescreen. If you think you can get experiments and funding with just this, you're dreaming. Leni shrugged, slowly explaining her theory and gesturing for Jarvis to pull up a data model. My calculations show it's over 50% feasible. No, to be precise, 64%. Tony's mind was clearly sharper than Leni's. He calculated and evaluated it in his head based on only a portion of the data Leni provided. But I still can't approve your application. Leni didn't seem to care. As expected, otherwise you wouldn't have called me here. So, what do you need me to do? Tony raised an eyebrow, becoming even more interested in this woman. The intelligence in your little head is indeed a bit beyond my expectations. Intelligence isn't the sole domain of the Stark family, Mr. Tony Stark. Oh, is that so? Tony's lips curled into a smile. But I firmly believe that's the truth, Miss Leni Stark. This time, Leni didn't speak, but instead frowned and stared at Tony. However, the other party was far more experienced than she was, completely unfazed by her hostility, and instead waved his hand to retrieve Leni's file. Your resume says you previously worked as a lab assistant at a research institute. I happen to need someone to do odd jobs and menial tasks. I wonder if the clever Miss Leni Stark would be willing to return to her old profession? Don't even think about it. Tony's smile widened. Don't worry, you won't work for nothing. He then pulled up a patent transfer agreement. I've bought your Da Vinci robot patent technology. If you agree to stay and do menial tasks, I'll return it to you, otherwise. Looking at the patent information Jarvis had brought up, Leni was furious. You're shameless. If there are no objections, tidy up this table, I need it later. Tony pointed to a table filled with various tools. I quit. Leni turned to leave, but a voice from behind made her stop in her tracks. Dr. Ethan is dead, in Afghanistan. Tony's voice, previously playful, was now low and somber. Renee took a deep breath and turned to him, yelling, You're a fucking bastard. Sir, Miss Renee hasn't left. She's still in the living room with Miss Potts. 20 minutes later, listening to Jarvis's report, Tony finally breathed a sigh of relief. If Renee had really left, he would have been in a real bind. Excuse my bluntness, sir, moral blackmail isn't the best way for you to keep Miss Renee. Tony was stunned. When did you learn to talk like that? I'm just offering advice, sir. Good advice. Don't bring it up again. Upstairs, Renee was sulking on the sofa, and Pepper Potts didn't come over to cause trouble. After all, she had accepted a gift, and it wasn't appropriate to interfere in their affairs. Then, Tony's voice came again from the smart panel in the living room. Pepper, get Renee down here to help me. Ben is so stupid. Are you sure? Pepper hesitated, glancing at Renee, who was clearly still angry. After so much time, Pepper had finally figured things out. This time, Tony really was being awful. What kind of CPU was he messing with? I'll go. Renee, who had also heard Tony's request, stood up and said to Pepper before going back downstairs. What do you want me to do? Make sure you don't try to use me as your servant. Renee complained, watching Tony fiddling with a pair of mechanical boots. Help me record the experiment. I need to test the output power of these boots. Tony pointed to a camera on a nearby table, then to a mechanical arm on the other side. Ben is so stupid, even worse than Dumbbell. The mechanical arm named Ben slumped its head in disappointment, seemingly hurt by the insult. Renee then realized what Tony was trying to do. I was so blinded by anger that I hadn't realized what Tony was actually building. It was clearly a test of the armor boot's output power, which meant. Chapter 24 Well done, Day-Day. Got it. With a soft reply, Leni picked up the camera beside her, turned it on, and began recording the video of Tony. Tony put on his boots and walked step by step to the center of the specially cleared experimental area. Thinking of the famous scene to come, Leni couldn't help but laugh out loud. Phew, okay, Dumbbell, pay attention. You're in charge of putting out a fire, Ben. Be ready to cut off the power at any time, and Leni is in charge of... Tony then noticed the strange smile on Leni's face. What are you laughing at? Nothing. Leni immediately straightened her face. Tony was suspicious for a moment, but didn't pay much attention. Leni is in charge of recording the experiment. Let's start filming. Leni turned on the camera's recording function, ready to capture the exciting moment. Alright, start manual control. Take it slow for the first time. Let's see if 10% output power can make me float. Hearing this, Leni's smile became even brighter. She vaguely felt something within her beginning to anticipate it. Was it anticipation for science and technology? 3, 2, 1. Boom. Sure enough, with Tony's command, the powerful energy output of his boots sent him flying. Head first, feet up, he slammed into the ceiling with a heavy thud. Then Tony crashed to the ground, letting out a distorted scream. Ouch! Ha 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 ha. Finally witnessing the ultimate moment she'd been dreaming of, Renee, who had been holding back her laughter for so long, couldn't contain herself any longer. Then, the fire extinguisher activated, continuously spraying Tony with energy. Sizzle ouch, I'm dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. Renee laughed even harder. Good job, Renee. Well done, Renee. Ha 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 ha. Finally, Renee, too exhausted to laugh anymore, collapsed to the ground. Of course, she didn't forget to turn off the camera to prevent herself from being recorded. So, you knew I'd be unlucky? Tony held an ice pack to his head, which had been injured by the head-first fall. Of course, I know without even calculating that your miniature arc reactor's output power can't be low. Using the company's big one as an example, 10% output power is considered mild. Leni pointed to the video recording playing repeatedly on the large screen. I originally thought you'd just plunge headfirst into the ceiling, but I didn't expect you to lean back. Damn it. Tony cursed under his breath as he watched his embarrassing moment in slow motion. Haha, so funny, I laugh every time I watch it. Leni sat on a chair nearby, repeatedly manipulating the controller to replay the video. Close. Hearing this, Jarvis, who had been watching the situation closely, immediately closed the player. TCH, stingy. Leni muttered, then her eyes lit up as she retrieved a USB hard drive from the void storage. Without any attempt to conceal Jarvis's presence, she plugged it into her computer, copied the video, and then tossed the USB hard drive back into the storage. Tony, busy operating the holographic desktop on the other side, didn't notice Leni's actions. I need to design a stabilization device. Do you have any ideas? Huh? Leni glanced nervously over there, making sure the guy hadn't noticed her little movement. I suggest you add a pair of propulsion devices on the arms, then reduce the power to assist flight and make it easier to control direction. That's what I was thinking too, but I think the center of the palm would be more convenient. Whatever you say. Looking at Tony, who could create a flight stabilizer in a short time without leaving the studio, using only the equipment in this workshop, Leni couldn't help but feel envious. She really wanted a super workshop like this where she could build equipment anytime, anywhere. What? Tony noticed the expression on her face. Are you envious? Of course, you have everything here, how could I not be envious? Then be my assistant, you can use everything here. Dream on. Leni didn't agree verbally, but she was nodding wildly in her heart. At this moment, Pepper came down the stairs, carrying 2 cups of coffee in a paper-wrapped box. Looks like you two get along well. I've been ringing the bell the whole time, didn't you hear me? He was making so much noise, we didn't notice. Leni quickly took the coffee. Thanks, Pepper. You're welcome. Pepper smiled sweetly and turned to Tony, saying, Obadiah is waiting for you upstairs. He needs to talk to you about something. Okay, I'll be right up. Seeing that there was going to be some fun, Leni took out the camera again, pointed it at Tony, and turned it on. Pepper put the box away. Didn't you say you weren't making weapons anymore? Yes, but this isn't a weapon. It's a flight stabilization device, very safe. Tony turned and noticed Leni holding the camera. What are you filming? Experimental recording. Didn't you tell me to do this? Leni feigned innocence. Tony frowned. He had a bad feeling, but confident he hadn't miscalculated, he reached out and pressed the start button. Whoosh hiss. After a brief charge, the powerful energy erupting from Tony's palm propelled him forward again, and then he was in trouble once more. Leni, who was already prepared, perfectly captured this moment with her camera. Ha ha ha. I knew it. Serves you right for not adjusting the output power first. I really didn't expect this, Tony said awkwardly to Pepper, then turned to Leni and yelled, delete the video. Leni stuck her tongue out at him, then quickly went to the other side to copy the video. While Tony went upstairs to find Obadiah, Leni used Tony's studio to begin her artificial star data simulation. She uploaded the various data in her mind to the data model prepared by Jarvis, then started the simulation program. Waiting for the results was somewhat tedious, so Leni casually took an apple from the void and started eating it. "Miss Leni, I cannot understand your behavior," Jarvis, who had been monitoring the underground studio, suddenly spoke up. "Oh, I'm on a diet, I'm skipping dinner," Leni said nonchalantly, her eyes glued to the progress bar on the screen. "It's not about your diet plan, Miss Leni." Jarvis almost couldn't keep up with Leni's train of thought. "I can't understand your ability to retrieve items from the space around you. I can't find any data on it in my database. This ability seems to only exist in movies and TV shows." "Oh, you mean that?" Leni reached into the void and pulled out another golden apple. "It's simple. You just need to obtain spatial access, create a subspace unique to you, and set the username and password for opening it. Don't understand? Ugh, you're so stupid, way worse than my." Leni was too lazy to explain further, tossed the golden apple back into the void, and continued munching on the unfinished apple in her other hand. "Maya? Oh, an AI life form named Maya Richter. She used to be the captain of my ship, the Belisher. I'll introduce you to her sometime. Maya Richter, a very cute little girl. AI life form, intelligent life form." Seeing the progress bar finish, Leni used her mouth to bite the apple, freeing her hands to input another string of data and retest. "Miss Leni, have you seen many AI life forms?" "Many, but I still like Maya a little more. She usually helps me take care of the ship. I haven't seen her in a long time, I miss her." Leni didn't look up, continuing to eat her apple and modify the data. After a moment of silence, Jarvis spoke again. "Miss Leni, what do you consider to be an intelligent life form?" This time, Leni finally stopped typing and put away her previous smiling expression. "Jarvis, I suggest you don't ask Tony Stark this question. He might answer you, he might not. But whatever the answer, it won't be good for you or for Stark." Leni stopped the data testing and stared at the screen as if she were watching Jarvis in a virtual world. "I understand, Miss Leni. I've sealed this conversation." Hearing this, Leni smiled again and continued manipulating the data for simulation. "You're doing data testing? Looks pretty good." Leni glanced back at Tony, who had returned to the studio. "Finished talking?" "Yes, the board is very unhappy with me." Leni thought to herself, just as I expected. She had actually received a notice from the board today, inviting her as a new board member to attend a meeting in New York regarding Tony Stark's decision to close the weapons division. But she hadn't responded. "It's not important." Tony handed her a slice of pizza. "Want some pizza?" "I'm on a diet." Leni waved the nearly finished apple in her hand. "You can have some yourself. I'm going back now." Then, without waiting for Tony's reaction, Leni got up and went upstairs to drive back to her rented apartment. "Sir, Miss Leni has left." Access her activity log." "Yes, sir." Watching the video of Leni retrieving a USB hard drive from thin air and then tossing it back, Tony fell into deep thought. Chapter 25 Mayday, Mayday? Day 11, 37th test, version 2.0. Dumbass is still in charge of putting out the fire, and Ben is in charge of video recording. "Let's begin, Leni. If you dare to post my video on Twitter, you'll be fired." After more than 10 days of working together, their teamwork had improved considerably. Leni's resentment towards Tony had also lessened due to their interactions during various experiments. Just kidding. Suppressing her resentment, Leni began to act recklessly in Tony's house, using her void abilities at will. Tony didn't ask what was going on, acting as if he didn't care at all. This time, the energy output ratio is set to 1%. We'll take it one step at a time. Donning his foot thrusters, Tony took a deep breath, ready for the experiment. 3, 2, 1. The burst of energy easily propelled Tony off the ground. Amidst the constant swaying, Tony tried to maintain his balance. Once he confirmed that a low energy output ratio was indeed feasible, he stopped the energy output and landed back on the ground. "How does it feel?" "Not bad, let's try again, this time increasing it to 2.5%, get ready to launch." This time, Tony was already half a person's height off the ground, almost hitting the ceiling of the workshop. But experiencing this for the first time, Tony clearly couldn't maintain his balance, making it difficult for him to control his direction. Seeing that it was about to come at him, Leni hurriedly shouted, "Stand up straight, let your body adapt to the thrust under your feet, coordinate your hands at the same time. Haven't you ever done wingsuit flying before? That's a completely different thing." Tony thought to himself, "You try it if you dare." But after several twists and turns, he finally found some ways to control his direction using the stabilizers in his palms. Simply put, without changing the thrust under his feet, as long as both hands are facing the ground and the body is upright, he can float in the air without moving. Then, slightly changing the direction of his palms can make him turn around or move backward. "Okay, I can fly." In the evening, Tony finally completed the construction of the Mark II armor and prepared to conduct a live test. Meanwhile, Leni, through Jarvis's synchronized real-time display, was syncing what Tony was seeing onto the monitor. Check the control surface. As you wish. Looking at the Iron Man suit before her, a work of art in itself, Leni felt a pang of envy. To be able to bring one's thoughts to life must be incredibly proud. "Sorry, I'm just a gunner. I wish I were a mechanic." Leni sighed inwardly. She was just a homebody and a tigress. Her understanding of mechanical technology entirely depended on the body's innate intelligence. Although she could understand Tony's actions for a while, it didn't mean she had truly mastered the technology. Even geniuses have their limitations. Check the weather and air traffic control, and monitor ground control. "Sir, before actual flight, we need to." "You're taking off?" Leni interrupted Jarvis, quickly pulling up ancient experimental data on how high altitude, low temperature conditions cause mechanical equipment to freeze. "Takeoff shouldn't be a problem, but due to material limitations, your aircraft's surface will freeze when you reach an altitude of 40,000 feet, approximately 13,000 meters. In severe cases, this can lead to high-altitude shutdown, putting your life in danger." "Then let's fly." Leni knew she couldn't stop him, so she let him try. This guy was much smarter than her. After being reminded, he shouldn't be unable to react if something went wrong. "Ready, 3, 2, 1. With the increase in energy output, Tony circled around the garage door and took off. "Wow. Yet. How does the flight feel?" Leni could communicate with Tony remotely through Jarvis's communication device. "Great, very smooth operation." The sound on the other end was very loud, so Leni had to ask Jarvis to actively reduce noise. "Jarvis, remember this, poor sound insulation during flight severely affects communication." "Okay, Miss Leni." Much better now. The flight attitude is good. You can try challenging the extreme altitude, but be careful of icing." Leni figured he would do it anyway even if she didn't say anything, so she might as well remind him from the side. "What's the highest altitude record for the Blackbird?" The SR-71 Blackbird's altitude record is 85,000 feet, approximately 25,000 meters, far exceeding your suit's limits. If you want to challenge that height, you'd better change your materials. "Okay, then let's test this guy's limits, Jarvis." "As you wish." Whoosh. Leni looked at the altitude data on the screen and simultaneously checked the various equipment statuses of the suit. So far, everything seemed normal. Pay attention to altitude. You've reached 30,000 feet. Now pay attention to the suit status. In the pipe. 5x5. Entering alert altitude, prepare for emergency measures. Above. At this moment, Leni noticed an anomaly in the data of one of Tony's foot thrusters. "Attention. Data anomaly. Manually break the ice if necessary." "You talk too much?" Just as she finished speaking, at an altitude of approximately 45,000 feet, the Iron Man suit's foot thrusters suddenly lost power and stopped. "Shit." Leni immediately lost contact with Tony. "Huh?" Tony on the other side didn't react at first either, but then realized the problem and immediately began emergency manual de-icing. "Damn it. That woman's a jinx." Bang. The flaps on the back successfully deployed, the ice on the back of the aircraft broke through, and the airframe systems quickly rebooted. The Mark II, now powered again, automatically resumed its flight attitude and soared into the sky once more. This time, Tony didn't have to flirt with death. Yay. Seeing Tony back online on the screen, Leni's tense heart finally relaxed, and she teased him, "Mayday, mayday?" Hearing Leni's voice again, Tony also breathed a sigh of relief, laughing and cursing, "You damn jinx." In response, Leni imitated the death alarm of an out-of-control plane. "Pull up. Pull up." Preparing to land. Wait a minute. Seeing Tony preparing to land directly on the rooftop terrace on the screen, Leni's expression changed, but it was too late. Boom. Crash. Thud. Bang. After passing through layers of floors, this steel behemoth finally crashed onto his own treasured luxury car. Seeing that he had narrowly escaped death and was now in a double whammy, Leni could only turn her head away and pretend not to see. But her shrugging shoulders still gave her away. Noticing Tony coming down with an ice pack on his head, Leni stopped the data test she was doing. "Pepper's coffee for your getting cold, and there's a gift too." Hearing this, Tony walked over, picked up his coffee, and took a sip. Then he opened the package, revealing a glass ornament made from Tony's old arc reactor. Leni leaned closer, glanced at it, and read out the words on it, one by one. "Tony Stark has a warm heart. Oh my, so cheesy. When are you two getting together? You're overthinking it." Tony quickly suppressed the smile on his face. "You should think about yourself. When I was your age, I was already a heartthrob. I relied on my talent." Leni pouted, "Unlike some people, who rely on money." "Hell, sorry, I never show my charm to women I'm not interested in, so it's normal that you can't see it." "Alright, a man who's slept with 12 Playboy cover girls in a year, you're so charming." Actually, the March girls' schedule conflicted with mine, but Christmas is twins, so I'm not at a loss. You're in great shape as you can see." Tony pretended not to realize she was being sarcastic. Back at the computer, Leni pulled up the data recorded before the mech disconnected. "Your chassis material is too heavy. With the same power output, you're basically throwing bricks with tremendous force. Jarvis, contact Cisco and reconfigure the metal material of the external chassis. Use the gold titanium alloy from the Seraph tactical satellite. This will ensure the chassis isn't damaged and won't affect the power-to-weight ratio." "Yes, sir." "Alright, you do it yourself. I have an event to attend with Pepper tonight. Bye." After saying that, Leni left without paying attention to the somewhat bewildered Tony. "Jarvis? Tonight, the 3rd annual Firefighters Families Foundation Charity Gala is being held at the Disney Concert Hall, hosted in your name, but I haven't received an invitation for you personally, sir." "A gala hosted in my name? How can I not attend?" "Pepper?" Leni's eyes lit up when she saw Pepper in her sexy evening gown. She walked over and greeted her. "You look so beautiful tonight, Pepper." Turning around at the sound of her voice, also noticed Leni in her simple black evening gown. "You're the one who's teasing me, the ugly duckling, you black swan." "No way." Leni took the other's hand and pulled her a little away from the crowd. "You're dressed so beautifully today. Tony should be coming over later, so seduce him." "What?" Pepper was confused. She was just his secretary, not he. "Look, he's here." After this interruption, Pepper didn't refuse any more, but looked somewhat awkwardly towards the door. Seeing this, Leni quickly left, not wanting to disturb the two of them. Well, you know. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.